On that bleak, cold rainy night, Zhang Jingci, the vice minister of finance of the empire, met his end. He had lived a life of integrity, serving the country and its people with utmost devotion, yet in the end he was framed by treacherous officials in power. Accused of embezzling disaster relief funds, a fabricated, heinous crime was severed from his head by a sharp piercing sword cleaving the night sky in the downpour. Zhang Jingci roared to the heavens from his pool of blood, declaring that though he died, he had no regrets, only pity for the millions of people suffering under his wrath. The scene shifts to a modern technologically advanced, brightly lit, ultra-luxurious party hall. Popular actress Luo Wanwan, dressed in a gown, stares angrily at the trending topics on her phone. The screen is flooded with news of Fu Jin and the wicked Wen Yu's engagement that very night. Luo Wanwan crosses her arms, feeling utterly resentful and furious. She has money and beauty, in what way did she lose to Wen Yu? Just as she was getting impatient, her mother rushed in with terrible news. Zhang Jingci, the son of Aunt Zhang next door, who suffered brain damage in a car accident and was somewhat mentally challenged, had gone missing again tonight. With the torrential rain pouring down outside, what would happen if someone unable to care for themselves got lost? Upon hearing this, Luo Wanwan's sense of justice ignited instantly, and she immediately grabbed a black umbrella and rushed out. In the square, Luo Wanwan anxiously searched through the rain, calling out Brother Jingci. Finally, at the entrance of a retro pedestrian street adorned with red lanterns, she saw a tall upright figure ahead, holding a white oil paper umbrella and dressed in a bright red ancient official's robe. That impressive height and perfect shoulder width were exactly like Zhang Jingci's. Luo Wanwan rushed forward, grabbing his sleeve tightly, panting as she complained, "Brother Jingci, why aren't you home in the middle of the night? Are you hiding from me in this pouring rain?" The man before her had a face exactly like Zhang Jingci's, but his eyes were cold as ice, deep as a frozen pool, flashing with the terrifying majesty and wariness only a true high-ranking official in ancient times, wielding the power of life and death, possessed. Zhang Jingci abruptly pushed Luo Wanwan's hand away, even adopting a defensive stance. His brows furrowed, and he questioned in a low, hoarse, and authoritative voice, "Wasn't I already beheaded in the central courtyard last night? Where exactly is this?" Luo Wanwan looked at his serious, scholarly, and almost theatrical appearance and burst out laughing, so she crossed her arms, and following his lines, jokingly teased, "Well, my Lord Zhang, you don't want to be a medical worker today, so you are playing the role of a high-ranking official in disguise. Huh, fine, since you are acting so convincingly, then please come home with me, Lord Zhang." With that, Luo Wanwan completely ignored Zhang Jingci's inner shock and forcefully pulled him forward. Back in the hall, Aunt Chin, the Zhang family's nanny, who had been waiting for a long time, was overjoyed to see the young master unharmed and thanked Luo Wanwan repeatedly. She then immediately pulled Zhang Jingci to change into dry clothes. Just then, two young maids hired by the Luo family whispered among themselves, "Look at the Zhang family's young master, that crazy, idiotic look. He is dressed like a theatrical performer running around outside in the middle of the night. What respectable family's daughter would want to marry this idiot? Whoever marries him is doomed, their life completely ruined." These malicious gossips were overheard by Luo Wanwan, who happened to be passing by. Luo Wanwan's face instantly darkened to a terrifying degree, her fiery temper flaring up immediately. She strode over in her high heels, her eyes like steel knives, fixed on the two maids, pointing her finger at them. She warned sternly and fiercely, "You two, shut your mouths. If I ever hear you talking about him being stupid behind his back again, you'd better watch out. I'll tear your mouths apart with my own hands." The two gossipy women trembled under the terrifying pressure emanating from Luo Wanwan, daring not to utter another word. Zhang Jingci stood blankly in the center of the room, staring at the wall lamp emitting a strange light and the calendar on the desk marked with a modern year. He touched his head, looking at the photo of the young master of the Zhang family in a modern suit on the wall, and his rationality instantly returned. He whispered in disbelief, "I was clearly beheaded in the imperial court last night. Aren't I already dead? Why am I in this strange world with its bizarre architecture and no citizens of my great Chen kingdom? Could it be that my dementia?" He finally understood that he had escaped death and been reincarnated into a future world 1,300 years in the future. Luo Wanwan suddenly pushed open the door and walked in casually. Seeing this, Zhang Jingci was so frightened that he hurriedly wrapped himself in his clothes, his ears turning bright red, and shouted warily, "How dare you? Who are you, woman? How dare you trespass while a man is changing clothes? What kind of decorum is this?" Luo Wanwan, seeing his panic state, couldn't help but roll her eyes, walked over, snatched the wet clothes from his hands, and teased, surprised. Come on my dear young Master Zhang, when you were being silly before, I always personally helped you change clothes. You were quite proactive back then, always taking off your clothes in front of me. Now, you are pretending to be innocent. Hearing Luo Wanwan's incredibly modern remarks, which were shocking in ancient times, Zhang Jingci, a high-ranking official deeply influenced by Confucianism and adhering to etiquette, blushed deeply. He abruptly took a step back, clutching his collar tightly. His eyes were filled with the profound shock of an ancient person witnessing the collapse of propriety and social order. He quickly turned his head away, his voice stammering with nervousness and embarrassment, yet he tried his best to maintain a stern tone as he reprimanded, "Young lady, how dare you speak such nonsense? Men and women should not touch each other. How can you treat a young lady's purity as a joke? I need to change my clothes. Please, young lady, quickly avoid suspicion and leave. Don't forget to put those messy modern accessories on your head." Luo Wanwan looked at his hands covering his chest, his brows furrowed, and his rigid formulaic manner. She stood up in confusion, secretly wondering, this guy may speak in a refined scholarly way and act like an old relic, but how come his logic has become so sharp? The next morning, while Luo Wanwan was still sleeping in, her younger brother Lo Qing burst through the door shouting, "Sis, something terrible has happened. That idiot Zhang from next door, for some reason went crazy this morning. Before dawn, he put on that bright red ancient official robe again and went wandering around the nearby morning market. The nanny is going crazy." Hearing this, Luo Wanwan, wearing slippers, walked out while grumbling to Lo Qing, "Wait a minute, I remember Zhang Jingci was engaged to Wen Yu from the Wen family, wasn't he? He is always running around outside, but Wen Yu never, you didn't care about him at all." At this moment, the nanny Aunt Zhang rushed out, her eyes red, and revealed the shocking truth hidden for 3 years. "Miss Lo, you don't know. 3 years ago, the young master was so intelligent and dashing. Back then he was hit and thrown from under an out-of-control truck while trying to save Wen Yu, and ended up like this, mentally impaired person. But that Wen Yu, seeing that the young master was mentally impaired, not only didn't take care of him, but also despised him as a burden. As soon as he was discharged from the hospital, she immediately broke off the engagement, heartlessly and cruelly." Luo Wanwan clenched her fists in anger upon hearing this. At that moment, in front of a breakfast stall on the street, Zhang Jingci, dressed in a bright red official robe, solemnly handed over a few pieces of silver to buy fried dough sticks. The stall owner, however, treated him like a lunatic and berated him. "You big idiot, are you trying to fool me this early in the morning? Trying to buy fried dough sticks with a few pieces of pebbles? Get lost, you are a real nuisance." Zhang Jingci, unaccustomed to such humiliation, immediately frowned. Just then Luo Wanwan, wearing a white top hat, a white wool coat, and black sunglasses, made a grand entrance, exuding the luxurious aura of a wealthy young lady. She strode forward, shoved Zhang Jingci aside, and pulled a thick wad of 100 yuan bills from her bag, slamming them across the stall owner's face. She removed her sunglasses and coldly warned, "Open your dog eyes and see clearly. This money is enough to buy your whole shop. From now on, watch your mouth when you speak to my master Zhang. If I ever hear you call him an idiot again, believe me, I'll have this shabby breakfast stall torn down today." The stall owner, his eyes lighting up at the sight of money, immediately put on a smiling face and bowed repeatedly as he picked up the money. Just as the two were about to leave, Wen Yu, arm in arm with Fu Jin, walked towards them, dressed in a flamboyant manner. Upon seeing Luo Wanwan and Zhang Jingci, Wen Yu immediately switched to her sarcastic and cynical mode, publicly mocking, "Oh, isn't this Miss Luo? How come you've fallen so low as to hang out with that brain-dead idiot from the Zhang family who got into a car accident? You are really lowering the standards of our circle." Faced with Wen Yu's vulgar insults against Luo Wanwan's character, Zhang Jingci's eyes instantly turned icy cold. His tall, imposing figure, exuding unparalleled pressure, instantly approached Wen Yu, staring down at her intently. His deep, authoritative voice sternly warned, "Miss, watch your words. I am Zhang Jingci. I have been well versed in the classics since childhood and have never married, much less betrothed to you. Please have some self-respect and do not address me by my name." Wen Yu was terrified, her face turning deathly pale, and she took 3 steps back. Fu Jin, his face dark, stepped forward and pressured Luo Wanwan. "Luo Wanwan, haven't you embarrassed yourself enough by bringing a madman here today?" Luo Wanwan sneered, her fighting spirit as a rich young lady fully awakened. Pointing at Wen Yu and Fu Jin's noses, she publicly berated them. "Fu Jin, stop putting on airs here. And you when you 3 years ago, Zhang Jingci was injured while saving you from under a truck, and you instead of repaying your benefactor's life-saving grace, you call him a burden and break off your engagement, then turn around and climb into Fu Jing's bed. You are ungrateful and treacherous, you are worse than an animal, your Fu family stole your savior's fiancé, you are a bunch of heartless wolves. Fu Wei, struck where it hurt, was enraged and jumped out, yelling and cursing at Luo Wanwan. Without the slightest hesitation, Luo Wanwan swung her arm in a wide arc, delivering a resounding slap to Fu Wei's face, sending him staggering backward. She coldly warned, "Shut your dog mouth, if you dare call someone an idiot again today, believe me, I'll slap you to death." Fu Wei, his face swollen from the blow, completely lost his temper, yelling at Fu Jin and Wen Yu to kill Luo Wanwan. Fu Jin, his face dark, stepped forward, glaring angrily at Luo Wanwan. However, at that moment, Zhang Jingci strode forward with steady and elegant steps, shielding Luo Wanwan behind him. His deep icy gaze, filled with terrifying and supreme authority, fixed on Fu Wei and Fu Jin's faces. "Young Master Fu, as a man, you should discipline your wife, ensuring she is mindful of her words and cultivates her character. If you allow her to cause trouble outside, sooner or later, she will bring irreparable disaster upon your Fu family. Don't wait until others have to intervene and discipline her, only to find it is too late." Faced with this palpable ancient official's pressure, Fu Wei froze on the spot, his legs trembling uncontrollably. Terrified, he slumped onto the sofa, his face deathly pale, muttering, stammering, "This idiot, how can he have such terrifying eyes and an aura?" Fu Jin too dared not utter a word in rebuttal, turning away with a dark expression. Luo Wanwan, holding Zhang Jingci's soft fair hand, walked out of the clothing store and onto the main street. Zhang Jingci stopped and bowed very politely to Luo Wanwan, saying, "Miss Luo, thank you for today. It is just that you offended the Fu family for my sake. It is really not worth it." Luo Wanwan turned her head away haughtily and retorted, "I just can't stand anyone calling you stupid in front of me." She also noticed that his hands were still tightly clasped together and teased, "What, Lord Zhang, men and women shouldn't touch, but now you are reluctant to let go." Upon hearing this, Zhang Jingci's fair face instantly turned bright red, and he quickly and awkwardly released her hand. To quickly change the subject, Zhang Jingci told Luo Wanwan that he had overheard the nanny mentioning a grand antique appreciation event that evening, which Fu Jin and Wen Yu would also be attending. Moreover, a very important antique with a mysterious connection to his past would be the grand finale, and he hoped Luo Wanwan could take him to see it. Luo Wanwan excitedly agreed. However, Zhang Jingci, looking at his cumbersome ancient robe, reverted to his rigid, ancient tone and sighed, "But I was seriously injured earlier, and my injured body is indeed inconvenient for long journeys." Luo Wanwan couldn't help but roll her eyes, then pointed to a brand new, luxurious, black top-of-the-line sedan parked steadily by the roadside. Luo Wanwan put on sunglasses, flashed a confident, modern-day aristocratic smile, and said, "Oh my Lord Zhang, in our time, we don't need to rely entirely on our legs to travel. Look, this modern mode of transportation has been waiting here for a long time. Lord Zhang, please get in." Zhang Jingci looked at the Mercedes-Benz behemoth that sped along modern roads without horses, and his face instantly hardened with an air of absolute authority. That evening, Luo Wanwan wore a dazzling gold-sequined evening gown, with a white fur shawl draped over her shoulders. Meanwhile, Zhang Jingci, now dressed in a sharp black suit, instantly captivated the audience with his cold aloof face and perfect supermodel figure. However, Wen Yu, sitting not far away, saw Zhang Jingci's improved appearance and deliberately raised her voice to mock him. "Hey everyone, look, isn't this our circle's big idiot? A fool actually dares to attend such a high-class party." Several brainless rich kids and socialites around him joined in with a cacophony of ear-piercing laughter. Luo Wanwan's anger finally erupted. She stormed up to Wen Yu and the Fu brothers in her high heels, publicly berating Wen Yu in front of hundreds of celebrities and dignitaries. "Wen Yu, you ungrateful wretch. 3 years ago, Zhang Jingci was injured while rescuing you from under a truck. And you, instead of reciprocating, called your savior a burden, broke off your engagement, and then climbed into Fu Jin's bed. You are ungrateful and treacherous, worse than an animal." Fu Wei, enraged by this attack, roared and cursed in anger. Luo Wanwan retaliated with a powerful slap across Fu Wei's face, coldly warning, "Shut your dog mouth. If you dare call someone an idiot again today, believe me, I'll slap you to death in front of all these dignitaries." Fu Wei completely lost his temper, and Fu Jin, his face dark with anger, also stepped forward. Just then, Zhang Jingci slowly walked up, pulled Luo Wanwan behind him, and stared intently at Fu Wei and Fu Jin with the murderous gaze of an ancient courtier. An overwhelming pressure emanated from him, rendering Fu Wei unable to move. To break the awkward silence and save face, Fu Wei pointed to an exquisite, top-secret white porcelain vase in the display case and once again taunted Zhang Jingci, saying, "Zhang Jingci, you big idiot, stop putting on airs. Do you think you can tell everyone here that you can even look at antiques?" Zhang Jingci calmly stepped forward, pointed at the vase, and commented in a calm yet unwaveringly confident tone, "This vase is a folk imitation from the early days of the previous dynasty, with a complete 90-year history. That dynasty is clearly less than a century old, so this vase is at most 100 years old. How can it be considered an antique of 10,000 generations?" This extremely confident historical assessment provoked an even more frenzied roar of laughter from Fu Wei and the others. "Ha ha ha ha, listen to this idiot spouting nonsense. That year is clearly 1300 years ago. You actually call something from 1300 years ago only 90 years old? What short-lived dynasty is there in history? This is hilarious." However, just as everyone was mocking Zhang Jingci as an idiot, Professor Chen, an 80-year-old historical luminary who had remained silent until now, was struck dumb after hearing Zhang Jingci's comments on the details of the founding of the nation. His face instantly turned astonished. Trembling, he pushed through the crowd and rushed to Zhang Jingci, shouting excitedly and incoherently, "My God, genius, this is a true genius. You all don't know this, but this white porcelain vase is a top-secret artifact that was salvaged from a mysterious ancient tomb just last month. Because of its antiquity, even the top historians in our entire research institute have been unable to determine its true dynastic background until this afternoon. Only this afternoon did I find a record in a tattered ancient book. 1,300 years ago, there did indeed exist a history that is not detailed in history, a mysterious dynasty meticulously recorded, the Great Chen Kingdom. And the tiny hidden engraving on the bottom of this vase is precisely the special official seal of the Chen Kingdom's government, dating back 1,300 years. I, an old man, have spent countless efforts to uncover the truth of history, yet this young man, without any reference materials, saw through its origin at a glance. He even knows details like less than 100 years since its founding, details not even explicitly recorded in ancient texts. In an instant, the entire room fell silent, everyone's jaws dropping to the floor in shock. Fu Wei's smile froze instantly, his face turning deathly pale, completely paralyzed with fear. Wen Yu, terrified, smashed the wine glass in her hands onto the marble floor with a loud crash, her whole body trembling violently as if struck by lightning, unable to utter a single word. Standing in the center, Zhang Jingci, after hearing the old professor's words, was also overwhelmed with a tidal wave of emotion. So his great Chen Kingdom had already perished in the torrent of history 1,300 years ago. She had been wrongfully murdered in the courtyard last night, her soul having traversed 1,300 years of time and space to arrive in this future world 1,300 years later. And this vase wasn't it, the very white porcelain vase he had ordered to be placed on his desk in his study when he was the Vice Minister of Revenue. Amidst the awe and shock of the assembled dignitaries, Luo Wanwan proudly puffed out her chest and, like a little bird clinging to a bird, tightly clung to Zhang Jingci's strong arm. Zhang Jingci, the Vice Minister of Revenue of the Great Chen Kingdom, at this moment, with his innocence and authentic memories as an ancient person, completed the most shocking and magnificent ultimate kill and counterattack at a grand banquet in modern society. At a top-tier antique appreciation party in a modern metropolis, a jaw-dropping drama was unfolding. On the spiral staircase of the hall, a man and a woman, dressed in magnificent ancient costumes, one in red and one in white, descended, their stunning appearance instantly attracting the attention of all the spotlights and dignitaries. Before everyone could finish praising him, a shrill jeer erupted from the crowd. It turned out that the man in the white robe, with his aloof and cold demeanor, was none other than Zhang Jingci, the infamous deadbeat of the Zhang family, a man who had been mentally challenged for 3 years. While others pointed and mocked him as a madman, no one noticed that his hands clasped at his waist and his upright, pine-like posture were not qualities a fool could possess. Luo Wanwan ignored the disdainful whispers around her. Her gaze was drawn to an ancient painting surrounded by layers of people in the center of the hall. Curious, she quietly inquired of her acquaintance, Uncle Shu. Uncle Shu, his face filled with admiration, lowered his voice and explained that the landscape painting hanging on the wall, titled Clear Water Mountain, was the undisputed highlight of tonight's appreciation event, a priceless treasure. Its creator was none other than Zhang Yin, the legendary master of traditional Chinese painting, who was renowned throughout the Great Chen Kingdom 1,000 years ago. Upon hearing the words, Zhang Yin and Great Chen Kingdom, Zhang Jingci, standing to the side, suddenly felt his deep black eyes narrow sharply. He strode forward, staring intently at the calligraphy and signature on the painting. In an instant, his heart was filled with astonishment. The vigorous calligraphy on the silk was his, the rugged landscape composition in the painting was also his. This was clearly an authentic work. He had painted himself in his prime when he achieved the highest rank in the Great Chen Kingdom. Zhang Jingci couldn't understand how his own work had crossed 1,000 years to end up in this strange modern world. At this moment, Luo Wanwan grew increasingly fond of the painting and immediately expressed her desire to buy it. As a result, a vicious woman dressed in a gaudy gold sequin dress rolled her eyes and launched into a tirade of mockery in her shrill voice, asserting that Luo Wanwan was merely putting on a show and couldn't possibly afford this priceless treasure. Mr. Zhang, the spoiled brat who had been looking for an opportunity to humiliate the Zhang family, also approached with a wineglass, deliberately calling Zhang Jingci a fool in front of all the dignitaries, his tone utterly contemptuous. Seeing the man she had risked her life to protect being so humiliated in front of everyone, Luo Wanwan's beautiful eyes blazed with fury. She first coldly warned Mr. Zhang, and then before anyone could react, Luo Wanwan abruptly raised her hand and splashed an entire glass of blood-red wine onto Mr. Zhang's arrogant and shameless face. Having his face splashed with red wine for no reason and his clothes ruined, Mr. Zhang was instantly enraged. His face contorted in fury as he roared, raising his hand to slap Luo Wanwan. At the critical moment, Zhang Jingci, who had seemed harmless, suddenly turned cold in the dark. His figure moved with lightning speed, instantly blocking Luo Wanwan's path. His right hand, like a giant iron clamp, firmly and forcefully clamped down on Mr. Zhang's outstretched wrist. The force caused Mr. Zhang to scream in pain. Seeing the situation turn against him, Fu Jin, the young master of a wealthy family, immediately stepped forward with a grim face, warning Zhang Jingci to let go in a condescending tone. At this moment, Zhang Jingci exuded a high-dimensional pressure that compelled everyone to submit. He coldly met Fu Jin's murderous gaze and declared word by word, with unparalleled authority, "From this moment on, none of you are allowed to bully Miss Luo." His sharp domineering aura instantly stunned all the wealthy young masters present. Uncle Shu, seeing the situation about to spiral out of control, quickly stepped in to smooth things over, telling everyone to stop causing trouble at the appreciation event. Seeing Zhang Jingci, who had been mentally impaired for 3 years, suddenly unleash such terrifying power and aura, the surrounding guests whispered amongst themselves, wondering if the idiot had recovered. Meanwhile, Wenyu, the vicious woman in the red dress beside Fujin, had a grim expression, because she was certain that the doctor had said Zhang Jingci's brain was damaged and he would never regain his senses. At this moment, Zhang Jingci pulled Luo Wanwan aside and whispered in her ear with extreme gentleness yet unwavering certainty, "Girl, that painting hanging on the wall is fake. You absolutely mustn't buy it." Unfortunately, Mr. Wang, who was standing nearby, overheard this. As if he'd stumbled upon the biggest joke of all, he immediately launched into a tirade of sarcasm throughout the appreciation event, mocking Zhang Jingci, a fool for daring to call a priceless treasure, personally authenticated by the top Chinese painting master Qi Bai Shi, a fake. Uncle Shu and the surrounding dignitaries also joined in, with disdainful laughter, deeming the ravings of a madman unworthy of their attention, but Zhang Jingci remained unfazed. He stared directly at these blind fools and repeated, with unwavering conviction, "This painting is indeed fake because I painted it." Upon hearing this, the entire room erupted in uproar. Everyone felt this fool had become even more insane. The renowned Chinese painter Qi, who had been meditating with his eyes closed, seemingly oblivious to worldly affairs, suddenly opened them. He strode to the painting Clearwater Mountain, removed his glasses, and examined it closely against the silk. His aged face immediately contorted with utter astonishment. The painting's fluid brushstrokes and profound ink tones, its proud and unyielding spirit, were exactly the same as Zhang Yin's from 1,000 years ago. This was undoubtedly a masterpiece. Qi's hands trembled as he turned and stared intently at Zhang Jingci, his tone grave as he questioned him about his teacher. Zhang Jingci, knowing he couldn't reveal his secret as a time traveler, calmly fabricated a lie. He claimed that he had been a fervent admirer of Zhang Yin's painting style since childhood, diligently copying it day and night, and had already mastered 8 or 9/10 of its essence. Therefore, the painting hanging on the wall was merely a clumsy imitation, not a genuine work by the master Zhang Yin. Seeing this, Luo Wanwan suppressed her shock and quickly tried to smooth things over, smiling as she explained to everyone that Zhang Jingci's illness had indeed improved significantly recently. Fu Jin, however, felt utterly humiliated at his own party. His face contorted with disgust. He roared at Luo Wanwan through gritted teeth, demanding she immediately immediately take this disgraceful madman away. Faced with Fu Jin's arrogant expulsion and humiliation, Zhang Jingci's eyes showed no sign of backing down. He gently pressed Luo Wanwan's shoulder, which trembled slightly with extreme anger, and looked at her with an extremely gentle yet powerful gaze, saying softly, "Miss, leave the rest to me." Then he turned his head, coldly surveying those who questioned and mocked him, and arrogantly proposed to paint a picture on the spot to prove that the painting on the wall was merely a high-quality forgery. At this moment, Master Qi was in a state of extreme fervor for top-tier art. He immediately flicked his sleeve and shouted, "Bring me brush and ink." A long table was instantly spread out in the center of the hall, with a sheet of snow-white chuan paper stretching to the floor. Under the watchful eyes of hundreds of wealthy and powerful figures, Zhang Jingci calmly picked up the brush and dipped it in ink. His wrist hovered in the air, his brushstrokes flowing like clouds and water, his ink application like splashing water across a landscape. The grand effortless masterly demeanor he displayed instantly stunned everyone present, leaving them breathless. In just a moment, a completely new landscape painting appeared on the paper. Whether it was the ruggedness of the mountains, the fluidity of the clear water, or the pride and elegance in every stroke, it was exactly the same as the so-called priceless masterpiece on the wall, even surpassing it in spirit and charm. Old Master Qi was utterly shocked. He rubbed his eyes, staring intently at the new painting on the table, then at the composed Zhang Jingci. His whole body trembled violently, and he even pointed at Zhang Jingci, stammering, "You, the characters you wrote, and the brushstrokes, are you really the master of traditional Chinese painting, Zhang Yin?" Seeing this authoritative figure, Old Master Qi, display such an almost worshipful expression towards the fool, Mr. Zhang and Fu Jin turned pale, completely unable to accept this absurd reality. Mr. Zhang even blurted out that Old Master Qi was senile. Seeing the situation escalating, Fu Jin quickly slapped him away, warning him to be more respectful to Old Master Qi. Old Master Qi, completely ignoring everyone else, was almost obsessively stroking Zhang Jingci's new painting, praising it as an absolute masterpiece, a rare gem in the world. Luo Wanwan knew that if the male lead's painting skills were confirmed to be genuine, it would be too astonishing. To protect him, she quickly smiled and stepped forward to explain that Zhang Jingci had indeed loved traditional Chinese painting since childhood, but it was merely a hobby of imitation. She was grateful for Master Qi's praise. Zhang Jingci stood to the side, his eyes gently meeting Luo Wanwan's, feeling endless gratitude for this intelligent girl who always protected him. Mr. Zhang and the woman in the gold dress, their scheme exposed, were now losing face, and began to sourly question who had the audacity to sneak a fake into the appraisal event if the painting on the wall was indeed fake. Meanwhile, Wen Yu, the woman in the red dress beside Fu Jin, arrogantly stepped forward in her high heels and sharply questioned Luo Wanwan, "Since you knew Zhang Jingci had a mental illness, you shouldn't have brought him to such a serious occasion to embarrass him in public. What were your intentions in doing this?" Faced with the group's persistent pestering, Luo Wanwan sneered. Ignoring everyone, she haughtily took Zhang Jingci's arm, and under the complex gazes of the crowd, turned and walked away with her head held high, nimbly exiting the hall. Pushing open the door, the square outside had been transformed into a silver-white wonderland. The first snow of the year was falling gently from the sky. Seeing the beautiful snowscape, Luo Wanwan happily lifted her elegant skirt, twirling and laughing joyfully in the swirling snowflakes. Zhang Jingci, draped in a white woolen coat, stood silently to the side like a celestial being from a classical painting. His gaze remained tenderly fixed on Luo Wanwan, his cold heart completely melted by this scene. He thought to himself, this was the first time in this unfamiliar world that a woman had so unconditionally protected him with her shoulder. Luo Wanwan, her face flushed from playing, urged him to hurry home, but Zhang Jingci grabbed her arm and stopped in his tracks. His expression turned serious, and he whispered, "Miss, please immediately send someone who didn't show up today. Someone those people definitely don't recognize, back to the painting Clear Water Mountain, hanging on the wall, and buy it at the original price." Luo Wanwan looked on in confusion, but Zhang Jingci couldn't help but smile slightly, finally revealing the ultimate twist that had fooled everyone. "Actually, the painting on the wall is real. It is indeed an original I painted years ago. Those people at the party today were really too much, constantly making things difficult and humiliating you. To avenge you, I deliberately staged this whole thing, publicly setting up a scheme to discredit the original as a fake. This way those who mocked us will become a laughingstock for their blindness, and we won't lose the original seller's rightful profit. We can even buy back the original at a low price." After hearing this extremely meticulous business plan, Luo Wanwan was completely dumbfounded. When she learned that this man had done all this simply to support her, she clutched her chest and laughed, saying, "So this is what it feels like to be unconditionally supported." But then, her rational mind returned, and a huge question welled up in her mind. She stopped stopped and stared intently at Zhang Jingci, directly asking, Who are you? The Zhang Jingci I know has been mentally impaired for 3 whole years. He absolutely couldn't possess painting skills that would astound even a master of traditional Chinese painting. Tell me honestly, you are not one of those time-traveling characters from ancient books, are you? I am a staunch atheist. Facing Luo Wanwan's clear eyes, which seemed to see right through her, Zhang Jingci decided not to deceive this girl who was so devoted to him any longer. He took a deep breath and slowly said, Miss, now that things have come to this, I will no longer hide it from you. I am indeed not the young master of the Zhang family of your era. My true identity is Zhang Yin, the former vice minister of finance. Hearing this unbelievable truth, Luo Wanwan was completely shocked. However, before Zhang Jingci could explain further, a series of loud, piercing shouts suddenly erupted from the shadows not far away. The once peaceful snowy night instantly changed. A terrifying bolt of lightning streaked across the sky, accompanied by deafening thunder, and a torrential downpour began. In the darkness, a large number of unidentified men in black wielding weapons launched a frenzied attack and pursuit on Zhang Jingci and Luo Wanwan. In the extremely chaotic and shaky scene, Zhang Jingci, relying on his instinctive martial arts skills, desperately protected Luo Wanwan behind him. He fought against 10 enemies single-handedly, engaging in a fierce battle in the pouring rain. Unable to fight off 4 opponents, and also having to protect the defenseless Luo Wanwan, Zhang Jingci was ultimately struck hard by several men in black during the intense physical altercation, collapsing to the cold, rainy ground, coughing up blood. When the screen lit up again, the pungent smell of disinfectant hit my face. In the white modern ward, Zhang Jingci was lying weakly on the bed with his face as pale as paper. Luo Wanwan was standing by the bed with disheveled hair, holding Zhang Jingci's cold hand tightly with one hand. Her beautiful face was covered with tears, her eyes were red from crying, and her voice was hoarse-choked and complaining. The doctor just told me that the injuries you suffered were not ordinary falls, but serious wounds. Moreover, it seems that those wounds were made several days ago at least. Why do you have to endure it alone, and don't tell me a word? Looking at the girl who felt sorry for him, Zhang Jingci forced out a gentle smile and comforted him in a low voice. It is okay, girl, don't be nervous. Luo Wanwan gritted her teeth, wiped away her tears, and vowed to find the murderer and avenge him. However, Zhang Jingci just sighed self-deprecatingly, looked out the window at the endless night, and whispered lonely, You can't avenge this revenge, because that was the fatal injury he sustained when he was surrounded and killed by traitors in the Deccan Kingdom. At this moment, his mother was probably still in the Deccan Kingdom 1,000 years ago, waiting hard for his son to come home. He must find a way back as soon as possible, otherwise it will be too late. Just when the two were dependent on each other for life and death, the ward door was pushed open, and a Dr. Song in a white coat walked in and wanted to perform a routine examination on Zhang Jingci. Luo Wanwan patted his hand to reassure him not to be afraid. After the examination, Dr. Song said to Luo Wanwan with a complicated expression, Miss Luo, there is a very strange situation. Mr. Zhang's current logical thinking and various indicators have indeed miraculously improved compared to the previous 3 years of stupidity. However, he now exhibits an extremely rare and serious fantasy disorder, always imagining that he is a financial official of an ancient court in history. This kind of mental illness often requires more care. Hearing this, Luo Wanwan froze in place. In the corridor, Luo Wanwan took a deep breath, adjusted her emotions, slowly opened the door, and walked into the ward again. Zhang Jingci had already sat up on the hospital bed, turning his head and looking absently at the falling snow outside the window. Zhang Jingci retracted his gaze and looked at her with endless loneliness in his voice. I miss home. In that world, I still have too many things to complete, and there are many responsibilities that I have not shouldered. Looking at the man in front of him, who seemed to have been abandoned by the whole world, Luo Wanwan's heart was completely broken. She did not expose the doctor's diagnosis, but chose to tolerate him with endless tenderness. Luo Wanwan slowly squatted down by the bed, held Zhang Jingci's hand tenderly, raised his head, and comforted softly, Okay, no matter what you want to do, no matter where you want to go, I will be with you from now on. How about you just sleep well today, and when you wake up, I will accompany you back to your Big Chen country. Zhang Jingci looked at her dumbfounded, but an unprecedented warmth surged in his heart. In the Great Chen Kingdom, he was the superior deputy chief, and everyone only respected and used him. This was the first time in his life that he was cared for and loved by a woman in such a meticulous way. Luo Wanwan looked at him seriously, her beautiful eyes full of affection, and said word by word, Brother Jingci is not a child who needs to be coaxed. In Wanwan's heart, you are a real man man who can stand upright and protect me." Hearing Luo Wanwan's heartfelt words of love, Zhang Jingci stretched out his hand and gently pulled the girl who was looking at him into his arms. Luo Wanwan obediently pressed her little face against Zhang Jingci's broad and warm chest and silently made a decision in her heart, although she didn't know what kind of ulterior past the man in front of her had. But no matter what, since this man was willing to go against everyone in public for her and risk his life to protect her, she would use up her whole life to hide all the secrets for him and never let those with ulterior motives outside notice any abnormalities in him. The scene changed and time came to daytime. The bright sunshine shines on the stone benches in the outdoor park. Luo Wanwan was wearing an elegant white woolen coat, sitting alone and drinking tea quietly. At this moment, her agent, Sister Chen, ran over with excitement, stuffed a thick new script into Luo Wanwan's hands, and shouted with bright eyes, "Wanwan, what a happy event! This is the latest top-notch drama tailor-made for you by the company's senior management. In this Master Zhang, stay well, the top management has named you to play the female lead." Luo Wanwan opened the script, but when her eyes fell on the biography of Chen Guo official Zhang Yin, she froze instantly. Sister Chen on the side was still introducing eloquently, "Wanwan, you may not know that Mr. Zhang in this history became the #1 scholar in high school at the age of 18. Not only was he world famous for his poems and songs, but his accomplishments in traditional Chinese painting were also unparalleled. It's a pity that he became a high-ranking official so easily. At the age of 24, he offended the powerful people in the court because he was too upright. In the end, he was surrounded and killed by traitors on a snowy night. It was said that he had serious fatal wounds all over his body when he died." Hearing these words that almost exactly matched Zhang Jingci, Luo Wanwan's mind exploded instantly. The words Uncle Shu said at the appreciation meeting, Zhang Jingci's pale face on the hospital bed, and the old fatal injuries on his body that the doctors marveled at, all flashed through her mind like a revolving lantern. She closed the script suddenly and stood up, her eyes full of disbelief. Zhang Jingci did not suffer from hallucinations. Every word he said was true. He is really the tragic genius in history, Zhang Yin himself. After learning the truth, Luo Wanwan did not dare to delay for a moment and rushed all the way back to the Zhang family mansion like crazy. However, when she hurriedly opened the outer door of the mansion, she found that the atmosphere in the living room was strangely depressing. It turned out that Fu Jin had arrived at the Zhang family at some point and was asking Mother Zhang angrily, "On Zhang, how callous when you came to break off the engagement when Zhang Jingci was paralyzed in bed. She trampled the dignity of the Zhang family to the ground. Why do you still agree to let her into our Zhang family today?" Mother Zhang lowered her head in pain, and her old voice was filled with endless desolation. "Fu Jin, when you broke off the engagement, how could I, a mother, not hate marriage? But as time passed, I gradually understood. In this wealthy family, which young woman in the world is really willing to entrust her life's happiness to a person who can't take care of herself?" At this time, Luo Wanwan, who was hiding in the darkness of the corridor, happened to hear all this, as well as Wen Yu's shameless conspiracy not far away. At the corner of the corridor, the heroine Wen Yu was biting her ears proudly with her best friend. Her best friend sneered and said sarcastically, "Wen Yu, you are really capable. Now the Zhang family is the best in the entire business world. When Zhang Jingci had an accident 3 years ago, you ran faster than anyone else. But what happened now? You saw with your own eyes that Zhang Jingci recovered from his illness. Not only was he talented, he also painted a picture at the appreciation party. The painting can even amaze Mr. Qi. As soon as you see that someone is making a profit, you want to shamelessly come back and pretend to be pitiful and apologize, hoping to get back together with her and continue to be your rich young lady." Wen Yu's cover was exposed, but there was no trace of shame on his heavily made-up face, but he snorted confidently. However, just as Wen Yu was about to walk back to the hall triumphantly, an angry roar suddenly came from the darkness next to him. I saw Fu Jin rushing out from the depths of the corridor with a livid face and red eyes. He suddenly stretched out a big hand, grabbed Wen Yu's shoulders, pressed her whole body roughly against the cold wall, and roared madly, "Bitch, you carry me to Zhang's house every day. It turns out that when you see Zhang Jingci recovered, you couldn't help but want to betray me and come back to find him to rekindle your relationship, right? Do you think I am a dead person?" The entire corridor was filled with the sound of extremely fierce physical conflicts, and the villain camp was completely ugly. At this time, in the quietest side room of the Zhang family mansion, as the first snow outside fell harder and harder, there was only pure white left between the sky and the earth. Luo Wanwan gently snuggled into Zhang Jingci's arms and raised her beautiful red eyes, filled with distress for this man. She sniffed and said to Zhang Jingci very seriously, "Brother Jingci, promise me, no matter how Wen Yu is crying outside, you will never forgive her, okay? That kind of snobbish woman is not worthy of you at all. From now now on, look at the people around you more, and look at me more, okay? Looking at the girl in his arms, who was worried about him, Zhang Jingci's cold and aloof face finally burst into a gentle smile. He hugged Luo Wanwan deeper into his chest and answered unswervingly with a deep affection that had traveled through thousands of years and was as heavy as 1,000 pieces. Don't worry, girl, I will never forgive when you. Besides, I am not qualified at all to accept this cheap and hypocritical apology on behalf of the real young master of the Zhang family who passed away due to despair 3 years ago. My past has been buried, and my future is only yours. Hearing these vows, Luo Wanwan's eyes flashed with tears of happiness. She looked at the man in front of her brightly, and finally mustered up the greatest courage in her life, and confessed affectionately, "Then, Brother Jingci, let's be together, and we will never be separated for the rest of our lives." Zhang Jingci didn't speak anymore. He just used up all his strength to hold this girl who had completely entered his cold life tightly into his arms. Outside the window, there is the first snow falling all over the sky. Inside the window, there is a pair of lovers who have spanned 1,000 years of time and space. The whole play comes to a perfect conclusion in this piece of ultimate beauty and happiness. Who would have thought, the useless eldest son, once despised by his elders and bullied by outsiders in a top-tier wealthy family, completely woke up overnight after a life san and zan death crisis, his IQ instantly maxed out to the limit. At this moment, Julian Zhang, lying on the grand bed of a luxury hotel, slowly opened his eyes. Those once hollow and timid eyes now reflected a cold majesty that made people dare not look directly at him. The woman in white, sitting by his bed, who had been trying to scheme against him using despicable means, wanted to come closer to continue her entanglement, but this time, she met an insurmountable wall of ice. Julian pushed her hand away expressionlessly, not even bothering to look at her, his tone as cold as an ice cave. "You and I have no mutual affection and no official status. I have always despised women like you, who are malicious and use any means necessary to achieve their goals." These words, carrying the unique pride and disdain of an ancient high official, completely bewildered the woman in white. She cried and questioned hysterically, asking Julian if he was just like those bad men outside, with only the high Zan and Zan mighty Chloe Lo in his heart. Faced with the woman's unreasonable making of a scene, Julian didn't even bother to waste half a word, directly adjusted his clothes, turned around decisively, and strode out of the room. However, in this completely unfamiliar modern world, this former ancient capable minister was undergoing double torment of body and soul. On a night with pouring rain, Julian walked alone on the empty streets of New York because he had self-harmed earlier to resist drug control. The wound on his wrist split open violently under the wash of cold rain, and blood instantly stained his sleeve. Completely exhausted, he finally collapsed in agony in the dark damp corner of a garage, gasping for breath. At the exact same time, in a prosperous club on the other side of the city, Chloe Lo, wearing a high-zen and white woolen coat, was anxiously giving travel instructions to Wu the butler. They planned that they must immediately set off for Los Angeles on Thursday to meet that Lord Zhang, who could decide the fate of the family, but Chloe could never have imagined that her brother Julian, whom she was searching for so bitterly, was wandering on the edge of life and death at this very moment. What was even more unbearable was that in the heavy rain, that selfish and hypocritical scumbag, Tristan Fu, stuck to her again, like a piece of chewing gum that couldn't be shaken off. Under the pretext of sending Chloe home, he shamelessly forced his way forward. Chloe had seen through him long ago, throwing a cold look directly at him, her words full of merciless sarcasm. Seeing his disguise about to be exposed, Tristan hurriedly grabbed Chloe's arm and began to complain wildly. He eagerly defended himself, claiming that the reason he was with that malicious Vivian Wen was entirely due to the pressure from his grandfather and family interests, and he didn't love Vivian at all. Immediately following that, this profits-and-driven scumbag exposed his extremely shameless ambition. He looked at Chloe and promised solemnly, "Chloe, wait for me a little longer. As long as I use Vivian to get the core resources of the Wen family, and after our Fu family successfully raises funds and establishes a firm foothold, I will definitely cut ties with that crazy woman Vivian without hesitation, and then I will marry you with great honor." Hearing this extremely selfish statement, Chloe felt so disgusted that she almost threw up on the spot. She shook off Tristan with one jerk and walked alone towards the dark underground garage, vowing that she never wanted to see this hypocritical trash again in her life. But just as Chloe was walking towards the depths of the garage in another even darker blind spot, a shocking reversal that would change everyone's destiny was quietly playing out. Injured, powerless, and dying, Julian was leaning weakly against the cold wall, looking at the sky in despair. Suddenly, a steady sound of footsteps echoed in the empty garage. A mysterious man, wearing a black, overzan knee coat, a black mask, and a baseball cap approached him step by step. At this critical moment, the ancient Julian forced his last shred of consciousness, questioning with a sharp look, "Who on earth are you?" The mystery man stopped, slowly raised his hand, and took off the mask on his face. In an instant, two identical faces collided in the darkness. The mystery man had a weird and cold smile on the corner of his mouth, uttering a sentence in a low voice, "I am Julian Zhang." What on earth was going on? It turned out that the one standing in front of him was the real young master Zhang of this world. The mystery man looked down at the soul on the ground and pierced through him sharply. "You are not a fool at all. You are a person from ancient times with supreme intelligence, right? Too bad. In this technologically advanced modern society, you are just like a helpless baby. You can do nothing." The mystery man squatted down and threw a tempting deal that the ancient Julian could not refuse. "Listen, our Zhang family's business overseas is now facing a devastating disaster. As long as you are willing to stay and use the political tactics and means in your head to help the Zhang family get through this crisis and fiercely crush those big families besieging us, I promise you that I will tell you the real method to return to ancient times, back to your original world, without missing a single word." Hearing the word home, an unprecedentedly strong light erupted in the eyes of the ancient Julian. For a lonely soul trapped in an alien world with no one to rely on, his hometown was his entire belief. He used all his strength to grab the other party's coat corner, begging in a near-Zan desperate yet firm voice, "Deal, please, you must tell me the way home." After saying this, he completely fell into a coma due to excessive blood loss. Not long after the mystery man left, Chloe, walking alone in the garage, keenly smelled a heavy scent of blood. She followed the blood trail and saw at a glance Julian, lying in a pool of blood, his face as pale as paper. At that moment, Chloe felt as if her sky was collapsing. She dropped the bag in her hand, rushed over recklessly, tears stopping for nothing as they fell, her small hands trembling to pick up Julian, crying out piercingly, "Julian, wake up! Julian, don't scare me!" In an extremely weak half-Zen awake hallucination, Julian vaguely looked at this anxious, beautiful face in front of him. At this instant, the modern scene blurred before his eyes, and he seemed to return in a trance to that state of Chen filled with gunpowder and poetry, back to his homeland that he dreamed of day and night. He mistook Chloe, in front of him, for his sweetheart, whom he had always secretly loved in ancient times, but could never see again. In a tender whisper that was almost a breath, he murmured with deep affection, "Miss Luo, is that you? I have finally seen you." In this call full of a sense of destiny, the two had a heartbreaking close interaction in the dark garage, and then Julian completely lost consciousness. When Julian opened his eyes again, what came into view was the white ward of the hospital and the IV bottle hanging overhead. The sunlight spilled over him, though a bit dazzling. It was very warm. Beside the bed was Chloe, whose eyes were red from staying up late, yet she still guarded him tightly, never leaving his side for a step. The doctor held the ward's end round record book and said to Chloe with an extremely serious expression, "Miss, the wound on the patient's wrist is cut extremely deep, almost hurting the core. The subsequent healing will be very slow, and he absolutely cannot use force. Moreover, according to the blood report, he was previously forcibly injected with an extremely potent psychiatric drug. Fortunately, his own willpower is amazingly strong, and he endured the most violent stage of the drug's effect. Now the toxins are almost discharged. As long as he wakes up completely and rests well, he will be fine." After listening, Chloe's hanging heart finally landed, thanking the doctor repeatedly, and promising that she would definitely brace herself with 12 points of spirit to take good care of him. After the doctor left, the ward regained its silence. Chloe sat gently by the bed, looking at Julian's hand wrapped in white gauze like a big bundle, tears almost flowing out again. In her heart, there was absolutely no second woman in this business world who could use such despicable and cruel means, except that malicious best friend Vivian, who would do anything to consolidate her position. Anger completely shattered Chloe's rationality. Her eyes went cold, and she immediately pulled out her phone to dial a mysterious number, her tone decisive and fierce. "Hello, arrange it for me. I want to buy all the top trending search spots today to expose all the dirty things Vivian did, I want her to pay the price. The exact moment Chloe hung up the phone, Julian on the hospital bed gave a low groan and slowly woke up when he saw clearly Chloe's face written with worry, the gentleness, courtesy, and restraint as a scholar of the Chen state in his bones immediately showed up. He tried to sit up with some effort, saying with extreme politeness and guilt in his tone, "I am sorry, Miss Loe, it is my incompetence that has brought you such great trouble again." Hearing his polite and distant tone, Chloe felt both heartache and grievance in her heart. She pushed him right back onto the bed, complaining with feigned anger, "You still know it is a trouble, why do you always go out without attendance, and Mother Zhang too, how can she always indulge you, letting you run out of the house alone by yourself, what if something really happened?" Hearing the other party blaming his mother, Julian hastily protected his own family and explained, "Miss Loe must not blame my mother, all of this was my own idea." Chloe sighed, questioning him with some despair at his lack of progress. "Do you know that the wound on your hand and the drug in your body were all the cruel hands of that crazy woman Vivian? She just wanted to use this despicable means to force you to submit, thereby taking control of your Zhang family. How could you be so careless?" However, after listening to these words, Julian's face was as calm as water, and he didn't even wrinkle his brow. He looked at Chloe, answering firmly in a calm tone that made people feel shocked. "You misunderstand, miss. The drug on me was indeed given by her, but this wound on my wrist was deliberately cut by myself with a sharp tool. Because the drug effect was breaking out at that time, I could only rely on this heart-piercing pain to barely maintain absolute clarity of mind under the control of that potent drug, so as to escape from that filthy place." Hearing this shocking truth, Chloe was completely stunned. She looked at this man with clear eyes and proud integrity, and a huge wave surged in her heart, but soon a deep sense of loss and bitterness welled up. In her cognition, the ancient Julian had always been completely submissive to Vivian, and could even be said to like her a bit. She smiled at herself mockingly, lowered her head with a lonely expression, her voice carrying a trace of imperceptible trembling and grievance. Didn't you always like her the most? How could you treat yourself so brutally under that drug effect that could even make a person lose their mind, restraining yourself so desperately? Is it possible that in your heart, you no longer think of her or like her now? Seeing the girl in front of him look gloomy and even develop a misunderstanding of him, Julian immediately put away that previous polite scholar face. His expression became incomparably serious, even carrying the gravity and solemnity of an ancient official delivering a speech in court. He stared dead into Chloe's big eyes filled with grievance, promising her word by word resoundingly, "Miss, please see clearly. I, Julian Zhang, walk straight and sit upright, and I never tell lies in my life. I swear to you here that I have never liked that woman named Vivian, nor have I ever moved a single shred of affection for her. Not only that, in the first half of my life, I have never loved any woman in this world." The misunderstanding vanished in an instant. Hearing this near-Zan desperate self-Zan confession, Chloe's originally gloomy small face instantly turned from sadness to joy, her heart as sweet as if she had eaten honey. To hide her secret joy, she deliberately raised her beautiful eyebrows, leaned her body forward a bit, and teased him with a playful smile. "Oh Lord Zhang, why are you explaining to me in such a rush? Are you especially afraid that I will misunderstand you? Let me think, could it be that you have actually secretly fallen in love with me in your heart, but your own wooden head just doesn't know it yet?" Hearing such bold and direct modern emotional expression, this minister of the Ministry of Revenue, who was ideologically feudal and law-Zen abiding in ancient times, was instantly completely dumbfounded. His handsome face turned red right to the roots of his ears at a speed visible to the naked eye, and he appeared entirely uneasy. He hurriedly coughed twice, moved his gaze away shyly, yet pretending to be serious, and reminded in a low voice, "Miss, there is a distinction between men and women, and order between old and young. Such a frivolous joke must never be made again in the future. It is not in line with propriety." Looking at his cute and pure appearance, Chloe laughed so hard that her flowers shook, and right at this moment, Julian slowly raised his hand, wrapped in heavy white gauze, staring at it before his eyes. His shyness vanished completely, without a trace at this instant, replaced by a bottomless depth and fortitude. He looked at the azure sky outside the window, as if saying to himself, and as if declaring to destiny, "I want to go home." As his voice fell with this sentence, flashes of memory cleared up again in his mind from not long ago, in that dark cold underground garage, the threat and trade conditions imposed on him by the masked modern Julian. The ancient Julian knew very well in his heart, that although this completely unfamiliar modern metropolis was prosperous, was. There was no home of his here, no family of his, let alone the civil and military officials and the people of the world for whom he had fought all his life. This was a concrete jungle, and his only obsession was to fulfill the contract with the modern Julian, to stay in modern times, use his unparalleled wisdom to help the Zhang family get rid of the current overseas business crisis, and then exchange for that mysterious method that could allow him to return to ancient times and back to his hometown. This was a gamble that allowed no failure, and it was also the only goal supporting him to live on. Withdrawing his thoughts, Julian turned his head to look at this girl whose heart and eyes were full of love for him. Perhaps it was the bond of destiny from getting along during this period that caused a deep heavy reluctance and attachment to quietly arise in the depths of his heart at this moment, which even he himself hadn't detected. His gaze became incomparably gentle, saying softly and finally to Chloe, "Miss Luo, after these injuries on me are completely healed, how about you accompany me to go out for a walk and have some fun, just the two of us, taking no one else?" Hearing this, Chloe's beautiful eyes instantly lit up, and the smile on her face was brighter than spring flowers. She agreed to it without delay, then blinked her eyes playfully again, teasing, "Lord Zhang, this was brought up by you voluntarily. Then let this girl ask you, in our modern times, does this count as you taking the initiative to ask me out for a date?" Looking at Julian's distressed appearance of being at a loss again, Chloe felt sweet in her heart, then like a caring person, she helped him cover the blanket well, instructing extremely seriously, "All right, I won't tease you anymore. For the recent period, you must honestly stay in the hospital to heal your injuries for me. You are not allowed to go anywhere, let alone sneak out to wander around behind my back. Do you hear me?" However, as the ancients said, fortune is that by which misfortune subsists. This warmth and sweetness exclusive to the ward was soon brutally smashed by the cruel conspiracy in reality. With a loud bang, the door of the ward was kicked open extremely rudely from the outside. Immediately following that, Chloe's nominal wealthy best friend, who was actually ruthless and malicious in heart, Vivian Wen, stepping in high heels, brought along an arrogant and overbearing Julian Shu marching in grandly. The moment Vivian entered the door, she wrapped her arms across her chest, rolled her eyes, and snorted repeatedly, mocking loudly, in an extremely sarcastic tone, "Oh, look who it is, isn't this the eldest daughter of our Luo family? Chloe Luo, you really don't learn your lesson. How come you fell for the same man again? What is the use of you guarding this useless piece of trash of the Zhang family every day?" Immediately after, Vivian shot a vicious look at Julian on the bed, provoking with a cold laugh, "I advise you to save your white efforts. What kind of lineage do the parents and elders of the Zhang family have? They can absolutely never agree to you being together with this useless man." Julian Shu, sitting on the side, had disliked Chloe for a long time. Hearing Vivian open fire, he also followed with strange riddles on the side. For a time, these two uninvited guests actually started shouting and making a scene on the spot in the quiet ward as if no one else was there, their words unbearable to hear. Chloe's face turned completely gloomy at this instant. She could not tolerate anyone humiliating or hurting her treasured brother Julian in front of her face. She stood up with a start, her entire person bursting with the powerful aura of a wealthy family's eldest daughter, her gaze as cold as a knife blade, directly interrupting the argument of the two with a domineering and stern voice. "Enough. Vivian, Julian Shu, if the two of you have itchy skin and want to find a place to argue, get the hell out to the street outside right now to argue. This is a ward, and Julian Zhang needs quiet rest now. Who gave you the courage to shout and make a noise here? If you know what is good for you, get the hell out right now." Rebuked publicly by Chloe, Vivian's face turned blue and white by turns, but she clearly didn't come today simply to argue. She gave a cold laugh, and taking advantage of this cause, she finally exposed the real purpose of their trip, gloatingly throwing a blockbuster bomb sufficient to cause an earthquake in the entire business world. "Chloe Luo, you can only put on the air of a wealthy daughter with me here now. Let me tell you the truth, the Zhang family's core business overseas has just suffered a devastating blow. Not only that, our Wen family, Fu family, Shu family, and Shu family, these four top wealthy families have now reached an agreement deciding to officially form a business alliance to completely drag your Zhang family down from the top of this city. Now all the big families are watching coldly in secret, just waiting for the Zhang family's capital chain to break and completely go bankrupt. I want to see what this useless man will be when he loses the protection of his family." The crisis, tangibly and like MT. tie pressing down, descended without any warning on this battered family's head. Facing this sudden devastating disaster, Julian, lying on the hospital bed, furrowed his brows tightly, his expression appearing exceptionally grave and deep. Although he was a newcomer, relying on the sharp intuition of an ancient senior official of the second rank towards political and economic trends, he instantly realized the cruelty and destructiveness of this commercial siege in modern society. And Vivian, standing on the side, looking at Julian's grave expression, felt immense satisfaction in her heart, continuing to fan the flames on the side, and let out gloating cold laughs. Looking at Julian on the bed bearing such great psychological pressure, Chloe felt deep heartache. In order not to let the enemy watch a joke in front of them, and also to maintain Julian's proud self-esteem, Chloe deliberately acted extremely relaxed and uncaring in front of Vivian and Julian Shu. She even let out an extremely disdainful sneer, retorting, "Vivian, put away your face that has never seen the world. Mother Zhang has rolled and crawled in the business world for so many years with heavenly means. What big winds and waves, what plots and schemes has she not seen? This mere little overseas squall, our Zhang family can settle it with a flick of a finger, and it is absolutely not the turn of you outsiders to worry blindly here. Get out." Seeing that they could get no advantage at Chloe's place, but were instead humiliated, Vivian and Julian Shu instantly became green with rage, let out a cold snort, and turned around to leave the ward with gnashing teeth. However, after the heavy wooden door of the ward closed completely and the outsiders were all gone, the atmosphere in the entire room instantly dropped to freezing point. Julian, who had forced himself to stay calm and proud in front of outsiders, just now appeared incomparably lonely and defeated at this moment. Facing this completely unknown modern cruel commercial war, facing this family survival involving heavy capital, this ancient minister of the Ministry of Revenue felt an unprecedented confusion and deep helplessness at this moment. He slowly turned his head, looked at Chloe, his voice slow and raspy, carrying a heartbreaking fragility, whispering softly, "Miss Luo, I want to go home. Here, it is really so tiring." Looking at the man who used to stand tall and never lowered his head on the battlefield or in court, now showing a helpless, fragile side like a child. The person behind the scenes made Chloe's heart ache as if pierced by 10,000 arrows. She hurriedly sat over, using her own warm small hand to tightly wrap Julian's cold, injured hand, pressing her forehead against the back of his hand, tears flowing down silently, while her mouth kept comforting with the gentlest and firmest voice in the world. "It is fine, Julian, don't be afraid. I am here for everything. No matter what happens, no matter how the world treats you, I will definitely stay by your side forever. We will face it together. The difficulty will definitely pass. Trust me, all right." Under Chloe's unreserved company and psychological support, Julian's shaking, painful heart finally calmed down gradually, the confusion in his eyes also starting to fade bit by bit, replaced by an unprecedented resolution. A few days later, Julian was finally allowed to be discharged due to his good recovery status. When he took off that loose hospital gown and changed into a crisp modern hide Zanan black coat and snowed Zan white shirt handmade and tailored by a top designer, the spirit of his entire person underwent the earth Zan shaking an astonishing change. His steps were steady, each step as if stepping on the drumbeat of the earth, carrying an incomparable sense of oppression as he came into the core executive conference office of the Zhang Group. At this time in the office, the air was so suppressed that it made people almost unable to breathe. Mother Zhang sat in the chief seat, her face haggard, while the dozen senior executives and chief financial officers sitting around the conference table were all frowning with anxiety. The breaking of the capital chain in overseas markets, the malicious manipulation by competitors, the successive betrayals of partners, stacks of thick crisis reports pressed down so hard that no one dared to breathe heavily. Just at the desperate moment when the entire management fell into a complete loss of solutions and someone even began to pessimistically propose asset liquidation, the tightly closed double doors of the conference room were suddenly pushed open with an irresistible force from the outside with a bang. Immediately following that, Julian burst out with full aura, carrying the absolute pressure of an ancient senior official of the second rank facing 100 officials in the golden throne room, stepping in leather shoes striding in with a grim face. He no longer had the incompetence and cowardice of former days, his gaze as sharp as a hawk, scanning everyone present. He walked straight to the very front of the conference table, propped his hands on the table, his voice low, calm, and magnetic, instantly freezing the whole room the moment he opened his mouth. The injury to the overseas business has now become an established reality. Extra complaints and pessimistic emotions are meaningless except for wasting time. What we truly need to do now is two things. First, immediately cut off the source of loss to minimize overseas losses at the fastest speed. Second, shift the strategic focus back to the homeland, find the most suitable and powerful partner in this city, and revitalize the capital chain of the entire group by expanding brands and new domestic business. The old butler, Uncle Lai, who had served for many years on the side, was already completely completely dumbfounded at this time, his eyes almost popping out of his sockets. This was still their family's eldest master, who usually didn't even dare to speak loudly and was completely submissive. This was simply a natural commercial helmsman. Julian didn't care about everyone's shock at all. He turned his head with composure and swift resoluteness, issuing an order to Uncle Lee. Uncle Lee, notify the secretariat. Within 2 hours, I want to see the true underlying data of all the lost yen making overseas businesses of the Zhang family. At the same time, I want a detailed report on all the core industries, financial statuses, and the profit distribution among them of the 4 big families Yuan, Shu, and Shu, who are participating in besieging us this time domestically. No detail can be missed. Not until Julian finished explaining everything and turned around to walk into his independent office did the executives in the conference room wake up as if from a dream, looking at each other. Everyone wiped the cold sweat from their foreheads, a huge wave surging in their hearts, marveling that this usual wealthy family ornament had now become more intelligent, thorough, and terrifying than any top-seeming commercial titan in this world. Late at night, everything was silent, and a soft desk lamp was still lit in the independent study of the Zhang family mansion. Julian sat alone in front of the wide desk, burning the midnight oil. In front of him, on the table and even on the floor, were densely packed with the most core financial data, stock trend charts, and various strict business cooperation contracts of each family just delivered by Uncle Lai. He used the light to review these modern business documents line by line without blinking. The ancient minister of the Ministry of Revenue was originally the core official in charge of a country's finance, taxation, and funds, and handling numbers and accounts in this world was simply a top expert entering a novice village. After finishing the review, Julian rubbed his temples tiredly and walked to the huge floor-to-zan ceiling window. He looked at this modern metropolis outside the window that was still bustling with traffic and brightly lit by 10,000 lights, even late at night, prosperous to the extreme, and then looked at the commercial contract in his hand that was logically rigorous and absolutely protected by law. His heart genuinely let out a long sigh. This brand new era, whether in terms of productivity, technological level, or the quality of life of the people, was indeed thousands of times more prosperous, flourishing, and better than that Chen state of his, which suffered from continuous wars and famines. Just as he was standing by the window contemplating and feeling a bit sad, the wooden door of the study was suddenly pushed open a crack quietly. Immediately after, Chloe's small head popped in, holding a thick coat thoughtfully in her hands. Seeing that Julian wasn't asleep yet, she puckered her small mouth with some heartache and loss, slipped in lightly, draped the coat over Julian's shoulders, and complained, "Julian, what time is it? Why aren't you resting well yet? Even if you want to save the company, do you not want your own body?" After saying that, she sat on the chair beside the desk with some shyness and attachment, propping her chin with both hands, admitting proudly, "All right, I admit that I'm not sleeping in the middle of the night because I just can't keep you out of my mind, and let me tell you, I took a big risk coming over tonight. My mother is guarding against you so tightly now, and during dinner today, she even instructed my brother that he must keep a close eye on me, for fear that I would be stolen away in the middle of the night by sweet words from you." This Zhang fox, who suddenly became smart. Looking at this modern girl in front of him, who had never abandoned him in his most destitute and dangerous times, using all her strength to warm him, Julian's cold heart was completely melted. He sat back in his seat, his gaze so gentle, it could almost drip water. And Chloe, sitting on the side, looking at Julian, who was focused and radiating the charm of a mature man all over, developed an unprecedentedly strong interest in his past and that mysterious ancient world. She blinked her big eyes full of desire for knowledge, leaned her body forward a bit, came close to Julian, and asked in a sweet voice, "Julian, you used to tell me every day that you were the ancient minister of the Ministry of Revenue, Julian Zhang. Then I'm really curious, what kind of place was that world called the Chen State? And what kind of person was that Lord Zhang who won the first place in the ancient imperial examination in that world? Was your former life happy?" Julian froze slightly after hearing this question. He looked at Chloe's crystals and clear eyes, and gently reached out to close those complex commercial materials in front of him. His gaze gradually became deep and distant, his entire person at this instant, as if passing through a time tunnel of several hundred years, completely falling into deeply profound memories. In an extremely low, raspy, yet charming voice full of a sense of story, he slowly narrated his unknown legendary first half of life to Chloe. "Miss Loe, actually in that world my background was fair enough. I was born into an extremely wealthy and prominent noble family. The ancestors of our Zhang family were once hereditarily infamed as a first Zan-class marquis because of following the founding emperor to fight on battlefields, glorious for a time. By my father's generation, although father saw through the mutual cheating and deception of officialdom and did not choose to enter court as an official, he relied on the connections accumulated by the family and his business mind to become a great tycoon famous north and south of the river. My mother was a Welzen-born lady from a famous family, gentle, virtuous, and Welzen educated. Above me, there were also two brothers who established illustrious military merits on the battlefield, and an older sister who was already married and Welzen read. Since childhood I received the affection of my parents and siblings, living with no worries about food and clothing. However, I was not a mediocre person content to hide under the protection of the family for a lifetime. When I was 15, I took provisions and a long sword, going out alone to travel north and south of the river, walking through the famous mountains and great rivers of the Chen state. But it was also those few years of travel that allowed me to witness with my own eyes the human suffering of too many bottom-zan level ordinary people starving to death everywhere and exchanging children to eat, to see the darkness of officialdom where corrupt officials lined their pockets and preyed upon the people, and all kinds of unspeakable huge injustices in this world. From then on, I made a silent vow that I must possess enough strength to change all of this. Therefore, when I was 18, I went to the capital to take the imperial examination. A policy essay on governing the country and bringing peace to the people amazed the civil and military officials in the Golden Throne Room, and I finally won the first place as the scholar of that year's examination. In order to hold the financial power of the state and truly do some practical deeds for the poor people of the world to solve their food and clothing problems, I gave up the leisurely official position in the Hanlin Academy and resolutely entered the Ministry of Revenue, which was in charge of the money and grain of the world and was the most labored intensive, cutting through thorns and briars all the way finally, sitting in the position of the senior official of the second rank as the minister of the Ministry of Revenue. Chloe propped her chin with both hands, listening to the whole thing with infatuation, her eyes shining and even her breathing subconsciously slowed down. Not until long after Julian finished speaking did she let out a long breath, marveling from her heart, "Wow, Julian, you are too amazing. This is simply the male protagonist that only exists in legendary stories. Let me tell you, these thrilling and great legendary experiences, those screenwriters on the market can't even write 1/10,000th of it. My Julian turned out to be such a hero, who is both civil and military capable and holds the world in his heart in another world. I really adore you more and more." Just as the atmosphere in the entire study was brought to an incomparably warm point by this memory of a legendary background, and the hearts of the male and female protagonists were bit by bit completely sticking together, sticking to a great point, suddenly, the heavy wooden door of the study was pushed open from the outside with a pay without any warning. Immediately following that, Mother Zhang entered with a serious face and a trace of anxiety in her eyes, strolling in surrounded by the old butler Uncle Lai and several strong attendants. The moment Mother Zhang entered the door, her sharp gaze instantly locked onto Chloe sitting by the bed. It turned out that after Mother Zhang finished handling public affairs in the mansion, she looked around for her daughter but found no sign of her. Uneasy, she eventually tracked her way to Julian's study. Seeing the elders and attendants suddenly burst in, directly breaking the late San night meeting of the two, Chloe's face turned completely red, her whole person embarrassed and at a loss, hurriedly standing up in a flurry. In order not to cause trouble for Julian, she grabbed her clothes and began to say somewhat incoherently, "Ah, well, Mother, Uncle Lee, why did you come over? Well, I just suddenly remembered that the company has some extremely important urgent businesses, so I rushed over to discuss countermeasures with Julian. We didn't do anything." Yes, just discussing proper business. Looking at her daughter's face, that was as red as a ripe apple, Mother Zhang knew it in her heart like a clear mirror, but due to saving face she didn't expose it on the spot. She just instructed a few words with dignity to pay attention to rest. Afterward, under her mother's deep gaze and the escort of her older brother who rushed over upon hearing the news, Chloe left Julian's room completely, looking back with every step, her eyes full of reluctance. After the brief warmth, the clock of the cruel realistic commercial war began to tick and spin wildly again. Early the next morning, the golden morning sun had just filled the earth. In the president's office of the Zhang Group, Julian was already sitting upright in the wide office chair. His neat short hair paired with a sharp suit made him appear exceptionally capable and sharp. At this time, while listening to the intelligence report from the old butler Uncle Lai, he kept circling and doting on the complex relationship network chart of each family with a pencil. Uncle Lai wiped the sweat from his forehead, reporting the latest probed intelligence with a worried expression. Master, the situation is very unfavorable to us now. Julian Shu's father, Director Shu, is acting most active and leading this time. He is now frantically pulling strings behind the scenes, lobbying and winnowing the Fu family, the Wen family, and the Shu family, these other three top wealthy families. Looking at this posture, the four of them will soon officially sign a joint statement, forming a rock-sand solid interest alliance. Once this alliance is formed, they will launch an attack on the stock market and the supply chain simultaneously, completely cutting off all retreats for our Zhang family and dragging us down. Listening to Uncle Li's anxious report, Julian, sitting on the side, still kept his face as calm as water, his long eyelashes covering the deep light in his eyes, his long fingers wrapped in thin gauze, gently flipped through the marriage files concerning the Shu family and other long-standing families in this city. Suddenly, his gaze, as sharp as a hawk, locked dead onto a name on a certain page of the file. A fatal logical loophole ignored by all modern smart businessmen was seen through at a glance by this ancient minister at this instant. Julian slowly raised his head, a smart light flashing in his eyes that made people break into a cold sweat, asking coldly, Uncle Li, let me ask you, according to this marriage file, the Shu family and the Mo family, who is the oldest and most powerful in our city, and is called the invisible giant crocodile, clearly have an extremely deep marriage relationship. Logically speaking, since Director Shu wants to form a clique and settle our Zhang family once and for all, his most desirable and strongest ally should be the Mo family. But why, according to all the intelligence you probe, Director Shu jumped up and down to contact everyone, yet left out the strongest Mo family alone? This violates common sense. Hearing this question, the old butler Uncle Lai was directly stunned. He thought about it carefully, and it was really the case. He hurriedly slapped his forehead, explaining with some helplessness, Oh master, you don't know. This old chairman of the Mo family is famous throughout the business world for his extremely eccentric, reclusive, and short-tempered character, and his standards are frighteningly high. He has a most famous characteristic, which is that he extremely dislikes and is disgusted by those nouveau riche. People like Director Shu are, in his eyes, just a group of people full of money stink, and old Mo doesn't even want to see them at all. So Director Shu simply dares not touch this bad luck, and naturally has no way to win over the Mo family. Hearing this, the corner of Julian's mouth curled up slightly, outlining a cold and confident smile of having a well-thought plan. The ancient minister of the Ministry of Revenue dealt with all kinds of high officials and even suspicious emperors every day in court, and was best at reading minds and catering to people's tastes. He stood up, throwing out a sentence with a sharp gaze, so that is how it is. Since this old chairman Mo has a proud and eccentric temperament and extremely hates crude people, it means that in the depths of his heart, he must place his emotions on those elegant and refined things. Since he likes to play the pedant, he will certainly be unable to refuse elegant ancient antiques and paintings, as well as the wonderful ancient zither music that can cleanse the soul. This is called catering to what he likes, attacking the heart before attacking the person. Thinking of this, Julian made a prompt decision, turning his head to issue an order to break the situation to Uncle Lai. Uncle Li, immediately mobilize all the connections our Zhang family can mobilize. Tonight, at all costs, secretly arrange a meeting for me with this old chairman Mo. Fix the meeting place at the quietest, most elegant, and classic tea house club. Also, the most important point, in the private room of the meeting, be sure to prepare an excellent ancient zither of old vintage for me in advance. On the other side of the city, inside a Haijian Chinese tea house that was extremely serene and wafting with faint tea fragrance everywhere, Chloe was forced to sit in front of an exquisite rosewood tea table at this time. Beside her sat Mother Luo with a majestic and non-Zen negotiable face. Today, she was forced by her mother to come here to have a meeting with a young master of a well-matched noble family. The young man sitting opposite her was dressed in a tailored custom suit, behaving extremely generously, gentlemanly, and politely. And right from entering the door, he fell in love at first sight with Chloe, who was stunningly beautiful and carried a cold and noble aura all over, his eyes written with deep appreciation and liking during the conversation. However, at this very moment, Chloe was completely absent-minded throughout the whole process. What joke the male party said, she didn't hear a single word, and that cup of top Zen Great West Lake Long Jing tea in front of her, she didn't even touch it at all. Her pair of beautiful big eyes passed through the exquisite screen carved with hollow patterns in the tea room, clinging reluctantly and filled with deep love and worry, staring tightly outside the grand door. Because just now, on that corridor, Julian, in a sleek black Kaizen suit and with an aura so powerful that it couldn't be ignored, was stroking past with Uncle Lai in a great hurry. Chloe's heart, at this instant, had already completely glued to that man's back, flying away with him. The man sitting opposite was a smart person who had crawled and rolled in the business world. Looking at Chloe's perfunctory expression and following her gaze to look at Julian, who had already gone far outside the window, it was instantly like a clear mirror in his heart. He did not show any anger or embarrassment as a noble family son, but instead smiled very gracefully and gently. He took the initiative to raise the teacup in front of him, motioned to Chloe, and said generously in a tone full of understanding, "Miss Luo, it seems that although I am fortunate enough to see the most beautiful scenery in this city today, unfortunately, Miss Luo's heart seems to have already been left on someone else. A forced melon is not sweet. It seems the fate between the two of us clearly hasn't arrived yet, but it doesn't matter. Being able to drink a cup of tea with Miss Luo is already my honor. Wish you happiness." Chloe had no mind to care about the man's exit, because at this very moment, inside a top private room burning with curling sandalwood smoke, arranged extremely elegantly and filled with ancient style, Julian was already sitting upright behind a huge antique screen. He closed his eyes slightly, discarding all distracting thoughts about modern commercial warfare in his mind, his entire person at this instant as if changing back to that scholar who played the zither and composed poetry in the golden throne room of the Chen state and in the misty south of the river. He took a deep breath, raised a pair of long fingers that were still flexible despite being wrapped in thin gauze, and plucked fiercely on the antique string's jung. A crisp, passionate sound of the zither, like high mountains and flowing water, instantly broke the silence of the entire room like a flash of lightning, vibrating wildly in the air. Just at the moment when this zither music was passionate and the artistic conception was so distant that it was breathtaking, the wooden door of the room was pushed open gently. Old Chairman Mo of the Mo family, who had an extremely eccentric and short-tempered character and whose standards were higher than the top, slowly stepped into the room under the extremely respectful guidance of butler Uncle Lai. Originally, Old Mo's face was written all over with impatience and annoyance at being disturbed. He thought that this rumored useless young master of the Zhang family, arranging to meet him, was just like that group of people of Director Shu, wanting to touch him with money and interests. However, when that loud and passionate ancient zither music, filled with proud integrity and noble spirit, truly entered Old Mo's ears, this old man who had navigated the business sea for most of his life and was used to seeing countless performances by famous masters was directly frozen in place as if hit by a freezing spell. His eyes instantly widened round, his mouth slightly open, an unprecedented wild joy, shock, and deep disbelief erupting in his eyes. This zither sound, the kind of breadth of mind that swallowed the world, the kind of pride that would rather break than bend, and the supreme exquisite artistic conception that cleansed the soul contained in this zither sound were simply miracles that could not exist in this materialistic modern commercial society. He could never have imagined that this rumored unlearned heir of the Zhang family actually hid such heavenly and exquisite zither skills. The song ended, the lingering sound winding around the beams, lasting for a long time. Julian pressed the strings gently with both hands, slowly opening his eyes. He stood up elegantly without losing his dignity as a superior person, walked around the screen to come before Old Mo. He was neither humble nor arrogant, bowing slightly to perform a polite gentleman's salute of ancient times. Then, he took an antique red sandalwood long box from Uncle Lee's hand, presenting it to Chairman Mo with both hands as peers, saying calmly and magnetically, "Old Mr. Mo, meeting for the first time, I heard that you love elegant music the most in your life. This is a small meeting gift, a token of my respect, and I hope you will accept it." Chairman Mo opened the wooden box slowly, with trembling hands and a trace of awe. Inside lay quietly an ancient zither score, written on topsand grade rice paper, with strokes like iron lines and silver hooks, filled with supreme calligraphic background. Old Mo was an expert of a titan level. With just one look at the structure of the score above and that shocking calligraphic handwriting, his entire person trembled violently with excitement. He even gasped out, This turns out to be a peerless solitary copy of a score that has been lost for hundreds of years on the market and cannot even be found in large museums. This handwriting, this melody, this is simply a priceless treasure. Young Master Zhang, you, where on earth did you get such a divine object? How could Old Mo know that this peerless solitary copy, which he regarded as his life, was actually a rare authentic work created and written by his own hand during leisure time in ancient times by Julian Zhang, the scholar from the Chen state in front of him. This was the dimensional reduction strike exclusive to ancient capable ministers against modern businessmen, an uncrossable gap. Looking at Chairman Mo, who had been completely conquered by himself and regarded him as the supreme soulmate, the modesty and gentleness in Julian's eyes vanished without a trace at this instant. Replacing it was a coldness and sharpness that made people shiver, a trait of an ancient senior official when deciding the life and death of a country in court. He stared dead into Old Mo's eyes, took a step forward, radiating an absolute momentum of swallowing the world all over, cutting directly into the main theme with a calm yet supremely majestic tone, throwing out his long Zan planned game Zan within Zan Zan game project. Old Mr. Mo, since you like the gift, then I will speak frankly without beating around the bush. The Zhang family has indeed encountered a bit of a storm overseas now, and those prophets and driven people of Director Shu are now uniting with the Fu family, the Wen family, and the Shu family, wanting to join forces to swallow our Zhang family. My meeting with you tonight is on behalf of the Zhang family to officially form a core strategic alliance with your Mo group. I want to borrow your hand and funds to set up a game within a game, a market outside the plate in the stock market and the domestic market, so that our two families can join forces to fight back together and completely reverse and swallow those four big families, Yuan, Xu, and Shu. Boom. These words were like a sudden clap of thunder out of a clear sky, exploding loudly inside the entire quiet room. Old Chairman Mo, an invisible giant crocodile who had navigated the business sea for most of his life and seen all kinds of big winds and waves, was shocked pale at this instant, drawing a sharp breath, his body involuntarily taking half a step back. He stared dead at this young man radiating unparalleled pressure, with a complex look of seeing a genius yet carrying endless shock, asking in a trembling voice full of disbelief, "You, what did you say? You, this young man, you actually want to bring down and swallow up the four top super big families of our entire city by your own strength alone? This is beyond capabilities." Julian stood in place, his hands clasped behind his back, his coat swaying slightly with the wind. He did not answer Old Mo's doubt, but only raised his chin slightly, an absolute confidence flashing in his eyes as if looking down at everything. This top genius from ancient times, with his unique ancient tactics and proud integrity, not only successfully conquered the most difficult commercial titan, but also personally wove a dragnet that calculated all four big families within it in this modern business sea. A shocking countered Zan attack storm that would completely subvert the entire modern wealthy family pattern and make everyone's soul tremble had under his fingertips, accompanied by that exquisite zither music, completely kicked off its destructive prelude. In the dead of night, on a desolate roadside in complete darkness, without even a street lamp, the cold wind howled, stirring up dust from the ground. The atmosphere was tense and eerie, almost suffocating. There stood the imposter young master of the Zhang family, his neck stiff, his face contorted with resentment, humiliation, and anger, hysterically cursing at the mysterious masked man in black standing before him. Veins bulged on the young master's forehead as he gritted his teeth and shouted, "Even though I am frantically trying to find my way home every day and dream of leaving this godforsaken place, I have my principles. I'd rather die than do something as filthy as selling my soul, going against my conscience, and forcing me to marry that scheming, utterly disgusting woman. When you'd better give up on that idea." But who could have imagined that the masked man in black standing opposite him, after hearing these righteous and unyielding words, would show no fear or hesitation whatsoever. Instead, like a vengeful ghost enraged, he took a huge step forward, his body hidden in the darkness, exuded an astonishing pressure. He stretched out a large calloused hand, like an iron clamp, and grabbed the young master's scarf and suit collar, violently pulling him close to his nose. They were so close they could hear each other's heavy breathing clearly. The masked man deliberately lowered his voice, a voice that seemed to emanate from the depths of hell, threateningly uttering each word with an extremely sinister and icy tone devoid of any human warmth. "You listen to me carefully, don't try to play the virtuous card with me. The person that woman when you truly adores, and is truly infatuated with has never been you, this worthless imposter, but that learned, exceptionally intelligent Minister of Finance Zhang, who held great power in ancient times. If you don't obediently follow my lead, and do everything in your power to help me properly marry that woman you into the Zhang family, I swear here and now, you'll never find your way home again. You'll die alone and in despair in this modern society." The young master's eyes turned red with rage, tears of humiliation welling up in them. He mustered all his strength and forcefully shook off the man's iron-fisted grip. Staggered back 2 steps due to inertia, panting as he straightened his disheveled collar, he pointed a finger at the other man's nose and shouted a warning, "Don't you dare use going home as a blackmailing chip on me again. I am not easily intimidated. Since I agreed to our deal and promise to help you play this role well. I will do everything in my power to fulfill it, but if in the end you can't keep your promise and can't get me back, don't blame me for turning ruthless. We'll fight to the death and you'll bear the consequences." Seeing that the young master, though stubborn, had finally yielded under his intimidation, the masked man in black, hidden beneath his mask, curled his lips into a sly smile of triumph. His tone softened slightly, losing the murderous rage he had displayed earlier. Instead, it carried an undisguised urgency, as he asked the young master what clever methods or romantic tactics he could use to make Wen Yu, that proud and arrogant woman who looked down on ordinary methods, fall head over heels for him again, just like before. Looking at the pathetic figure of the man, so obsessed with the woman that he had abandoned all dignity, the young master couldn't help but sneer, his eyes filled with disdain. He bluntly and mercilessly mocked, "A woman like Wen Yu, who is vain, whose eyes are only for money and power, and who will stop at nothing to climb the social ladder, is absolutely not a good match for you. You treat her like a treasure, but she treats you like a stepping stone." But the masked man in black was already completely obsessed. His eyes flashed with a fanatical and crazed light as he gritted his teeth, and said with extreme determination, "I don't need you to teach me how to do things, no matter the cost, even if it means going to hell, I must have her completely." The scene abruptly shifted, returning to a classically elegant and antique-style private tea room. Famous calligraphy and paintings hung on the walls, and the room was filled with the aroma of tea, extremely quiet. At this moment, Wen Yu, also dressed in mysterious black, with a graceful figure but a deep mind, sat upright at an expensive high-end mahogany tea table. Her expression was focused and elegant, her long slender, white hands expertly handling the exquisite purple clay tea set, slowly and methodically brewing tea, every movement exuding the refined grace of a well-rehearsed socialite. Just then the tightly closed carved wooden door creaked open. A masked man in black strode in, locking the door behind him. Under Wen Yu's watchful gaze, he unsuspectingly removed his black baseball cap and face mask, instantly revealing a breathtakingly handsome face identical to the young master outside. Wen Yu looked up at the sound, and the instant she saw the newcomer's face, a smile of surprise and delight, like that of a vixen, bloomed on her flawlessly manicured face. With a touch of coquettishness, she gently set down an exquisite shishi milk teapot, swaying her perfectly toned waist as she rose to her feet, gracefully approaching him. Her eyes held a knowing glint, and she softly expressed her utter disbelief that she never dreamed he, so aloof and usually indifferent to her, would actually take the initiative to arrange a secret meeting. She was truly flattered. Then Wen Yu, her sharp high heels clicking, strode to the man's side, almost pressing herself against him. She ran her fingers lightly across his lapel, her voice incredibly suggestive, her breath sweet as orchids, as she recounted their last tryst in the hotel room, those outrageous things they hadn't yet finished. As Wen Yu uttered those suggestive and explicit words, the screen abruptly cut to a passionate flashback, set in a dimly lit hotel room. In the extremely ambiguous, even decadent and flickering dim light, a masked man in black, his expression rough and domineering. His eyes filled with primal wildness, forcefully pushed the scantily clad and incredibly sexy Wen Yu onto the soft luxurious bed. Wen Yu gasped, not resisting, but instead wrapping her arms around the man's neck. The man's rough hands roughly caressed and kneaded her forehead, cheeks, and hair, his entire body pressing against hers. The entire scene was filled with a blush-inducing, violent possessiveness and a surge of hormones. Then, with a sharp snap, the scene cruelly cut back to the hotel bedroom. In reality, the sky outside was just beginning to lighten. The room was a mess, as if the afterglow of their passion hadn't yet dissipated. Wen Yu, her shoulders slightly exposed, the silk quilt barely covering her chest, looked exhausted, yet her face flushed with desire, languidly leaning against the headboard. The man, with his back to her, stood by the large French windows, slowly and methodically putting on his impeccably tailored, expensive business suit. Wen Yu stared intently at the man's broad, aloof back, her eyes filled with an undeniable urgency, a carefully concealed humility beneath her pride. She spoke softly, tentatively questioning him when he planned to fulfill his promise, a formal marriage, a wedding that would be the talk of the town, to bring her into the Zhang family. However, upon hearing these words, which sounded almost like a forced marriage, even carrying a hint of bargaining, the man buttoning his shirt paused for a mere second. He didn't even turn his head, not even glancing at her reflection in the window. He simply replied in a chillingly cold tone, devoid of any human emotion, "What is the rush? You are far too impatient. Everything depends on you figuring out a way to completely dissolve your engagement with Fu Jin, the heir of the Fu family. Only then can we discuss the next steps. My Zhang family doesn't want a woman with an engagement." Upon hearing this, Wen Yu's face turned deathly pale. She panicked completely, not even bothering to straighten her clothes, leaving large expanses of her fair skin exposed. She abruptly straightened up, knocking over the wineglass on the bedside table in her haste. She cried out urgently, "Jingci, you know perfectly well that my relationship with that good-for-nothing Fu Jin was nothing but an act from beginning to end. It was just a business marriage to appease the powerful families. I've never loved him for even a second, not even for a second. I even find him disgusting. My heart is filled with you now. I'd give up everything for you." Hearing this, the man in the black wool coat abruptly stopped. He turned around, his once clear eyes now flashing with a chilling cruelty and ruthlessness. He took a long stride, instantly closing the distance to the bed, and with a sudden movement, his right hand, like a giant iron clamp, gripped Wen Yu's delicate, meticulously cared for chin tightly. The force caused Wen Yu's chin to turn bright red. The man unleashed tremendous brute strength, forcing her to look up and meet his murderous gaze. The man stared down at her intently, his eyes filled with undisguised threat and a stern warning. He spoke slowly and deliberately through gritted teeth. "Wen Yu, listen to me. Since you've crawled back to me like a dog this time, you'd better stay put. Don't even think about running away again. And don't even think about betraying me or trying to have your cake and eat it too. Otherwise, I will never forgive you for the rest of my life, and I will make sure you and the Wen group die a horrible death." Finally, the man's fingernails almost touched. He dug his fingers into Wen Yu's flesh, his voice low, hoarse, and terrifying as he emphasized, "You'd better open your eyes and see clearly. I am no longer the spineless Zhang Jingci, who only knew how to submit to your whims and be manipulated by you." At this very moment, in the Fu family's sprawling opulent villa, in a warm and elegantly furnished boudoir filled with girlish charm and high-class sophistication, the heiress Luo Wanwan was wearing a pink, luxurious silk nightgown. She was utterly devoid of her usual dignified demeanor in social situations, listlessly slouching on the edge of the huge soft French bed. Her head was slightly lowered, her long seaweed-like hair cascading down, her slender fingers fidgeting idly with each other, looking preoccupied and listless. Just then, the wooden door to the boudoir clicked open. Her younger brother, Fu Qingming, casually carrying a bespoke suit jacket, swaggered in without a care in the world, plopped heavily down next to his sister, making the mattress bounce a few times. Seeing his sister's sullen expression, furrowed brow, and vacant eyes, Fu Qingming's gossipy nature ignited. He couldn't resist a mischievous grin as he leaned closer, nudging her shoulder with his elbow and tentatively inquired, "Sis, what is wrong? Did you and Jingci from the Zhang family have another fight, or is he ignoring you again?" Seeing that his sister didn't even lift an eyelid, completely ignoring him, Fu Qingming wasn't embarrassed at all. He raised an eyebrow and continued his juicy gossip session. He leaned close to Luo Wanwan's ear mysteriously and whispered, "Sis, you don't know yet, do you? That shameless woman Wen Yu, I don't know what got into her today, or maybe she lost her mind, but she actually went to the Zhang family's front door and in front of countless passersby and paparazzi lying in wait in New York publicly staged a staged apology. TSK, the scene she cried like a pear blossom in the rain." Now this super rich family scandal has completely blown up the trending topics on the internet and social media. Everyone knows both of their servers are about to crash from the sheer volume of gossip. Fu Qingming, her eyes filled with suspicion, scrutinized her sister's indifferent reaction, then chuckled mischievously and pressed, "Sis, tell me the truth, were you secretly pulling the strings behind this? Did you deliberately bribe the city's biggest media outlets and marketing accounts to ruin Wen Yu's reputation?" Luo Wanwan, who had been absent-mindedly fiddling with her fingers, finally stopped. She slowly raised her head, and her beautiful aloof face, capable of driving countless men mad, seemed to instantly become covered in icy frost. She sneered, a fiercely protective and domineering arrogance playing on her lips. She coldly replied, "Hmph. Who told that ignorant woman to dare bully my people in front of everyone? Anyone who touches my people should be prepared to pay the price." Fu Qingming, seeing this, couldn't help but click her tongue, shaking her head and teasing, "TSK sis, your protectiveness is becoming more and more refined, truly unparalleled. You are providing all-around, flawless, close protection for brother Jingci, no one can touch him." Then, Fu Qingming's playful expression vanished, replaced by an unprecedented seriousness, further revealing the most explosive development in this business battle. He looked at Luo Wanwan and lowered his voice to tell her sister, "Jokes aside, this matter has blown up too much. Wen Yu has lost all face by publicly apologizing at the Zhang family's gate and has now become the biggest laughingstock and scandal in the entire New York high society. Everyone is mocking her for trying to go back to her ex and turning into a clown. Moreover, due to the impact of this huge family reputation scandal, as soon as the stock market opened today, the stocks of Wen's Group and our Few Group suffered a devastating chain reaction of declines, hitting the daily limit down immediately. Countless investors are queuing up online. They're crying and wailing. The phones in both family offices are ringing off the hook. Upon hearing that the Wen and Fu family stocks had evaporated by hundreds of millions at the opening bell, Luo Wanwan's cold, beautiful face showed no sympathy or concern. Instead, she spoke with extreme satisfaction, even a hint of schadenfreude, saying bluntly, "Serves them right. This is exactly what serves them right means. The wicked will be punished by the wicked." With that, she arrogantly raised her chin and sneered, "I, Luo Wanwan, have always been one to seek revenge. I will never allow myself or those around me to suffer the slightest injustice. Since she dared to do it, she has to bear the consequences of the stock market crash." Immediately afterward, Fu Qingming dropped a bombshell, a piece of financial news she just received from Xu Xiaoxiao, enough to shake Wall Street and the entire business world. "Sister, breaking news. Just minutes ago, Wen Yu, braving the fury and criticism of the elders of both families, officially issued a lawyer's letter completely dissolving that priceless marriage agreement with the Fu family, one involving countless business empires." Luo Wanwan, who had been gloating and waiting for the drama to unfold, froze the moment she heard the words, "Wen Yu has completely broken off the engagement with the Fu family," as if struck by lightning. The smile in her eyes vanished instantly, replaced by an expression that was incredibly grave, profound, and cold, her brows furrowed, her mind racing. Her keen business acumen and understanding of human nature immediately prompted her to analyze the current situation. She turned to her brother, speaking heavily and deliberately, "No, this doesn't make sense. Wen Yu is always opportunistic, meticulous, extremely selfish, and cautious. If she didn't have absolute certainty of winning over Zhang Jingci and securing her position as the young mistress of the Zhang family, she would absolutely positively not risk offending the powerful Fu family at this crucial juncture by coming to annul the engagement. She must have powerful backing." As she said this, a sudden flash of insight struck Luo Wanwan, as if she had pierced through layers of fog and discovered a terrifying, utterly illogical flaw. She gasped sharply, her shock causing her to sit bolt upright in bed. "Something's not right. This is definitely not right," exclaimed Luo Wanwan, her eyes sharp as a hawk, soaring over a desert, staring intently at the white wall. Her mind raced as she analyzed, "Based on my understanding of Zhang Jingci, the real Zhang Jingci is inherently proud, independent, and unyielding. Even if he were to harm himself with a knife for the sake of his dignity, he would absolutely ever do nothing for a greedy, hypocritical woman like Wen Yu, compromise and compliance, let alone accepting her. And now, Zhang Jingci has actually agreed to Wen Yu's condition of annulment and has accepted her back. What does this mean? Unless that real Jingci brother has completely regained his senses, or that he was never crazy at all, and his previous madness was all an act." Sitting beside her, Fu Qingming listened to her sister's bizarre deduction, which resembled a Hollywood suspense blockbuster or a detective drama with plot twists, and rolled her eyes helplessly. He sighed, reached out and touched his sister's forehead, pouting as he complained, "Sis, I think you've been watching too many melodramatic suspense dramas lately, or maybe your brain is just too tired. What are you spouting nonsense about? There aren't that many conspiracy theories. Jingci just got a shock." To thoroughly understand the true nature of this Zhang Jingci, whose recent behavior and every move exuded endless strangeness and unfamiliarity, Luo Wanwan decided to take the initiative instead of waiting passively. Half an hour later, she arrived at the Zhang family villa. Led by the butler, she went straight to the spacious and luxurious central study, filled with countless precious antiques and classic works there. She saw the stand-in young master, dressed in a perfectly tailored, mature and composed black bespoke suit, sitting quietly at a huge ebony desk. He held several important documents involving the company's core secrets, pretending to be engrossed, his eyes darting around as he tried to hide his guilty conscience. Just then the crisp sound of high heels clicking on the luxurious marble floor broke the deathly silence of the study. Luo Wanwan, arms crossed, strode in with an elegant yet dangerous cat-like gait. She leaned casually against the edge of the desk, her beautiful eyes smiling as she looked at the young master seated in his chair. She deliberately brought up the time when the young master was hospitalized and caused such a stir, how he had promised her in front of the attending physician that once he was discharged, he would take her out for a whole day of carefree fun, without a care in the world. Luo Wanwan pursed her delicate red lips, half jokingly half teasingly asking, "And what happened? Young master, you are such a busy man. You went to work all day at the company as soon as you were discharged from the hospital, and I haven't seen you show any sign of keeping your promise." What are young master Zhang's words no longer reliable? Hearing Luo Wanwan's question, which was half coquettish, half accusatory, and tinged with a hint of familiarity, the stand-in young master sitting in the leather chair appeared more uneasy than ever before. His body tensed instantly, his fingers holding the documents tightening slightly, his knuckles turning white, his eyes darted around the study uncomfortably, unable to meet Luo Wanwan's large eyes, which seemed to have X-ray vision and could see through all lies. He simply lowered his head awkwardly, even his breathing was deliberately soft, and his voice was slightly hoarse, carrying a hint of barely perceptible panic as he whispered, I wasn't actually very busy today, and I've finished reading the documents, since I promised Miss Luo we can leave now. Luo Wanwan saw all his extreme nervousness, his evasive eyes, and the guilty conscience deep within him. She couldn't help but sneer inwardly, becoming even more certain of her suspicions. But on the surface, she deliberately feigned an understanding, magnanimous, and tolerant demeanor, like a wife deeply in love with her husband. She slowly walked around behind the table, behind the young master, and gently placed her fair, faintly fragrant hands on his strong but stiff shoulders. Her tone at that moment became incredibly affectionate and sincere, even carrying a heartbreaking tenderness. She whispered in his ear, "You don't need to be so nervous. Actually, I know very well in my heart, and I absolutely ever will, blame you for your repeated cold rejections of my advances. I know you have your reasons." Then, Luo Wanwan playfully and gracefully moved to stand in front of the young master, bending slightly to look him directly in the eyes, and reassuring him, "If I, Luo Wanwan, had only been pursuing you for 2 short days, and were to give up so easily because of your slight indifference and setbacks, wouldn't that make my feelings for you seem too cheap and insincere?" Hearing these words filled with love, understanding, and a firm commitment, the young master seemed frozen in place, speechless. After a long while he stiffly and slowly raised his head. His long dark eyes, usually filled with wariness and coldness, were now fixed intently on Luo Wanwan's beautiful face, radiating sincerity and passion, his heart churning with turbulent emotions. Luo Wanwan pulled up a chair and gracefully sat down opposite him. Her eyes, clear, firm, and unwavering, gazed at him. Her tone suddenly turned melancholic and forlorn as she frankly stated, "I know you will eventually go home. Although I have no right, nor any legitimate reason, to stop you, to prevent you from leaving this place and returning to your own world, I absolutely do not want to do anything that I will regret, suffer, or feel remorse for the rest of my life right now, while I can hold your hand." Having said this, Luo Wanwan boldly and unabashedly extended her 2 delicate, white hands, stepping over the desk, and firmly grasped the young master's large cold hand, which was slightly sweaty from excessive tension. Her eyes were filled with unwavering determination, and her words, though gentle, carried a weighty weight. "So in the time before you've truly thought things through and found a way to go home, let's spend some time together openly, like the truest lovers in the world. Okay, let's not have any regrets." Looking at Luo Wanwan's sincere eyes, the touching, even heartbreaking, affection, the young master's heart, usually hard and cold, and iron-like by his hidden identity and deep-seated inferiority, seemed to be completely melted in that instant by a sudden ray of brilliant sunshine. He nodded somewhat mechanically, uncontrollably, even his voice hoarse with obedience, agreeing to go back to his bedroom to change into casual clothes suitable for a date. Seeing his nod, the coldness in Luo Wanwan's eyes vanished instantly, replaced by a radiant, even childlike sweet smile. She was as happy as a little girl who had just bought her favorite candy at an amusement park, skipping and hopping as she walked out of the study. As she went, she excitedly turned back to say, "Jingci ji, hurry up and change your clothes. I am going to the underground garage to get the car now, and I'll wait for you at the villa gate. See you there." However, no sooner had Luo Wanwan left the study, in such a lively and joyful manner, than 2 Zhang family maids, who were wiping antique vases and cleaning in the hallway, couldn't help but huddle together, watching Luo Wanwan's cheerful and happy figure. They gossiped softly, whispering, "Hey, have you noticed, this top young lady from the Luo family has been coming to our Zhang family every day lately, personally bringing our young master meals, showering him with attention, and being incredibly attentive to his every whim. I think Miss Luo is deeply in love this time, absolutely smitten with our young master. He is so lucky." Meanwhile, the stand-in young master, now dressed in a sharp long black wool coat that made him appear even taller and more slender, stood quietly in a dark corner of the corridor. He heard every word of the maid's envious chatter. This time, however, he didn't fly into a rage out of self-pity or anger, nor did he immediately fire the two gossiping maids. He simply stood silently in the darkness, letting it engulf him. Those eyes, usually filled with ruthlessness, calculation, and wariness, now revealed for the first time an extremely confused, profound, and complex emotional fluctuation. He stared motionlessly at Luo Wanwan's cheerful figure disappearing at the end of the corridor for a long time, unable to recover. Night completely fell, and New York City transformed into a sea of neon lights and decadent luxury. Towering skyscrapers emitted a cold and dazzling light. The stand-in young master opened the sports car door and obediently, even somewhat reservedly, sat in the passenger seat of Luo Wanwan's multi-million-dollar luxury car. The moment he settled in, before he could even reach for the seatbelt, Luo Wanwan, sitting in the driver's seat, suddenly and without warning leaned completely against him. Luo Wanwan was almost entirely pressed against the young master's chest, the distance between them only centimeters. She gently reached out her hands and carefully pulled the seatbelt, fastening it for him with a click. Their bodies were pressed incredibly close in the cramped enclosed space of the sports car, filled with the scent of premium leather. The young master could even clearly smell the faint, wonderfully fragrant black rose perfume emanating from Luo Wanwan's neck. Even their slightly hurried, nervous breathing could be heard clearly in the quiet car. The air crackled with an intense, almost frenzied intimacy within the car, and the temperature rose sharply. After fastening her seatbelt, Luo Wanwan deliberately and playfully didn't immediately get up and move back. Instead, she tilted her head, staring intently at the young master's ears, which were already slightly red. A smile played on her lips as she teased playfully, "Oh dear, what have I done to deserve this? How could I possibly trouble the high and mighty Minister of Finance, Lord Zhang, to ride in my car? I hope Lord Zhang won't find my driving skills lacking later." The stuntman, usually ruthless and cold-blooded in the cutthroat business world, and in front of the ambitious Wen Yu now, under Luo Wanwan's overwhelming tenderness and teasing, seemed like a pure young man experiencing his first love. His face flushed crimson, his cheeks burning hot, and he appeared extremely shy and uneasy. He waved his hands frantically, even stammering as he replied, "No, I don't mind. How could I mind? Miss Luo, in the future, for these kinds of rough jobs, please let me do them. I can't let you do it." Then, the sports car emitted a deep wild roar, slowly starting and smoothly driving through the neon-lit bustling streets of New York. Luo Wanwan skillfully and confidently gripped the steering wheel, weaving through the traffic, while keeping a close eye on the young master in the passenger seat. She wouldn't miss any opportunity to test him, continuing to throw out her carefully prepared bait. As if casually glancing at the road ahead, she asked the young master in an extremely languid and relaxed tone, "Hey, Jingci, you've traveled all that way from ancient times without electricity, where you could only light candles at night, to this technologically advanced modern world where everything is so strange and wonderful. Aren't you quite amazed? You've been staying at home and at the company every day these past few days. Haven't you had a chance to properly enjoy New York yet?" Before the young master could even organize his thoughts and figure out how to respond, Luo Wanwan abruptly stopped the car at a red light and turned around. Her beautiful almond-shaped eyes were now brimming with a shrewd glint that seemed to see through all the conspiracies of the world. She stared at him, each word startling and cutting straight to the heart of the matter, directly revealing his hidden true identity. "You are Zhang Jingci, the Minister of Finance, right? Since your official position in ancient times was Vice Minister of Revenue, which is equivalent to our current Minister of Finance, then according to our modern history books and documents, you must have traveled from ancient society more than 1,000 years ago, right? Am I right, Minister Zhang?" Hearing the words Minister of Finance and time travel come out of Luo Wanwan's mouth so naturally and without any defense, the substitute young master, who had been extremely tense and on high alert, suddenly felt as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. His body, which had been tense all day, completely relaxed in an instant. He leaned back weakly in the leather seat, turned his head to look at Luo Wanwan, and even couldn't help but reveal a relaxed smile that was extremely helpless, yet full of infinite indulgence and doting. Because in his deeply ingrained, preconceived notions, Luo Wanwan was definitely throwing another tantrum as a rich heiress, deliberately making up stories to amuse him, playing along with his ancient time-traveling pretend act. He didn't think much of it. Seeing that he not only didn't refute her, but instead smiled so happily and indulgently, Luo Wanwan followed his line of acting, pursing her lips and continuing to delve deeper with remarkable ease. She pouted slightly, her voice lowering, mentioning that Aunt Chin had been frantically complaining on the phone that afternoon, saying that the young master had sat motionless on the living room sofa like a lifeless stone statue, not eating or drinking, waiting for her to come home from get off work all day. Hearing this, the stand-in young master turned his head somewhat embarrassed and awkwardly, looking out at the fleeting New York nightscape to hide his unease. He muttered in an extremely low hoarse voice, Actually, Miss Luo really doesn't need to waste your precious time waiting for me. You are so busy, it is not worth it." Upon hearing his response, Luo Wanwan's expression instantly became incredibly affectionate. She slammed on the brakes, bringing the car to a smooth stop at the side of the road. She turned around, her delicate hands fixed on the young master's eyes, and replied each word gentle yet weighty. "Remember this. In this world, whenever you come to me, no matter how important my business is, I will always have time, because you are more important than anything else." At this point, Luo Wanwan's heart softened. She reached out and gently poked the young master's somewhat stiff cheek, chuckled, and praised, "Lord Zhang is truly incredibly gentle and considerate today. I'm very satisfied." Then the smile in Luo Wanwan's eyes faded, and she sighed deeply with a touch of sadness. She looked down at her fingernails with a resentful tone, whispering that although her brother Jingci had recovered somewhat after waking up in the hospital and was more lucid, his brain damage was clearly not fully healed. According to the most rigorous and authoritative scientific definitions and diagnoses of modern medicine, his current bizarre behavior of constantly feeling like an ancient finance minister constituted an extremely serious cognitive impairment and delusional disorder. However, Luo Wanwan quickly raised her head, revealing a radiant and carefree smile, a breathtakingly beautiful smile, her eyes brimming with a passionate confession, like a moth drawn to a flame. She looked at him and said word by word that even if he had this cognitive impairment for the rest of his life, it didn't matter at all. She loved him now, with his cognitive impairment, his reliance on classical Chinese phrases and ancient etiquette. This was the Zhang Jingci she wanted. Finally, Luo Wanwan's eyes welled up with tears, as if she were laying bare her entire heart before the young master, confessing, "Zhang Jingci, although the original you and I were childhood sweethearts, knowing each other for decades, I swear to God, I never once had even the slightest thought for you. Until you appeared, I realized I've fallen hopelessly in love with you." The stand-in young master, sitting in the passenger seat, was completely stunned by this passionate, even life or death, confession, as if struck by lightning. His usually cold and calculating eyes were now overflowing with unprecedented shock, emotion, inferiority, and an extremely complex mix of emotions. He stared intently at Luo Wanwan's breathtakingly beautiful face, radiating sincerity under the vibrant neon lights of New York. His hands hidden in the pockets of his overcoat, clenched tightly together, his knuckles white. The glacier he had built in his heart for self-protection shattered completely in that instant, beyond repair by Luo Wanwan's heartfelt confession. The night was deep. On the edge of the city, in the empty ground of an abandoned factory, a man sat slumped on the ground, his hands covered in blood, looking disheveled and filled with despair. Lord Zhang, having changed his clothes, slowly knelt down, gently patted his shoulder, sighed, and calmly advised him not to be so ashamed or desperate. Who could have imagined that these two men, identical in appearance and even their fingerprints, were connected by a shocking secret of intertwined identities and swapped souls? It turned out that the person sitting on the ground at this moment was the true heir of the Zhang family, the young master, while the imposing figure standing there, exuding the aura of a superior, was none other than Zhang Jingci, the Minister of Finance from an ancient society over 1,000 years ago. The young master chuckled self-deprecatingly, coughing twice, assuming that Zhang Jingci's actions were all to completely replace him, to make his name shine in the modern business empire. However, Zhang Jingci's cold gaze and words ruthlessly pierced through this illusion, bluntly stating that he was simply greedy, too focused on reputation and those ephemeral riches. It turned out that the young master had already made a cruel deal with some unknown mysterious force to satisfy his ambition. Paying the price, he could no longer return to his original body. Standing under the moonlight, Minister Zhang expressed with deep emotion and frankness that his choice to forgo the opportunity to return to ancient times and choose to remain in the modern world was solely because he had thoroughly understood his own heart during this period. He loved Wanwan and wanted to protect her, a sentiment that did not conflict with his beliefs and integrity as an ancient minister. In the end, the real young master found peace amidst despair. He smiled self-deprecatingly, choosing to let go, allowing Zhang Jingci to continue living in the modern world under his prestigious identity, while he himself chose to live in anonymity, changing his name to Zhang Yin, completely severing ties with the past. The scene shifts to the modern-day CEO's office, a luxurious and technologically advanced space in the city center. Having weathered a series of family bankruptcy crises and business assassinations, Zhang Yin is being scrambled about by his new assistant, sweating profusely as he rushes to sign several crucial multinational contracts that could determine the company's fate. While organizing the documents, the assistant sincerely admires him, saying, "Young master, I truly admire you. Faced with the recent series of family upheavals and the complex and malicious difficulties created by the Wen Group, you've resolved them all so easily. That is truly unwavering composure, the demeanor of a great general, and fearlessness in the face of crisis." That night, after finishing his official duties, Zhang Yin stands alone before the enormous floor-to-ceiling window, gazing at the myriad lights of the city below. His eyes were gentle, filled with longing, as he made a tender transoceanic call to Luo Wanwan. At that very moment, in another upscale apartment building, Luo Wanwan, dressed in a sexy red dress, sat quietly under a soft wall lamp, reading a foreign language book. Hearing her phone ring, and seeing the words "lover" flashing on the screen, words she had personally saved in her contacts, a slight smile played on her lips as she answered the phone with a mixture of pride and delight. On the other end, Zhang Yin's magnetic, incredibly gentle voice came through, simply saying, "Wanwan, I miss you." These words instantly made Luo Wanwan blush and her heart race. But before she could even retort with a few words of playful banter, the call was abruptly cut off, due to poor signal or an accidental disconnection. Zhang Yin stared at his phone, bewildered. When he tried to send an explanation message on WeChat, he was shocked to see a glaring red exclamation mark appear on the screen, indicating that the message had been rejected. Zhang Yin was completely bewildered. As an ancient person, how would he understand this? He hurriedly called his close modern friend, his face filled with anxiety. "Hey, I have a question for you. What does that red exclamation mark that suddenly appeared in the WeChat chat mean? Did something happen to her?" Meanwhile, on the other side, the fact that Luo Wanwan had impulsively deleted Zhang Jingci's WeChat account had caused an uproar among her top-tier socialite friends within just half an hour. Xu Xiaoxiao and her group of friends, who usually had nothing better to do than watch the drama unfold, immediately gathered together, teasing and gossiping about Luo Wanwan. Wanwan sat in the middle of the sofa, stubbornly insisting that it was just a slip of the hand, while simultaneously blushing uncontrollably, clutching her already bright red and burning cheeks with both hands. She kept warning herself in her heart, "Luo Wanwan, wake up, you can't keep overthinking and trapping yourself like this. If you keep falling so deeply, you'll never get out." Just as their relationship was caught in a delicate tug-of-war, Luo Wanwan's persistent and crazed suitor came looking for trouble again. In the outdoor plaza of an upscale Western restaurant, Fu Pu, dressed in a sharp suit and considering himself dashing, blocked Luo Wanwan's path. His face was somewhat unpleasant as he loudly questioned why Luo Wanwan had been avoiding him all this time, even refusing to answer his calls. Luo Wanwan stopped, her entire being as cold as ice, her eyes devoid of any warmth. She bluntly stated, "Fu Pu, wake up. Back then, I was young and naive, unaware of true love, which is why I blindly pursued you for years. That wasn't love at all, it was just a little girl's competitive spirit. I'm warning you, don't keep pestering me like that, it'll make people look down on you." Fu Pu panicked completely, his eyes reddening as he shouted, "Wanwan, I truly love you now, even if it means facing immense business pressure from my grandfather and the entire family, I've resolutely chosen you." Wanwan, far from being moved, instead gave a cold laugh. Her sharp gaze ruthlessly tore through his hypocritical facade, bluntly exposing his true intentions. "Come on Fu P, when you got engaged to Wen Yu for personal gain, why didn't you resist? Now that Wen Yu is failing, you come to me. Your so-called persistence is nothing more than a compromise, a weighing of pros and cons. Don't make your selfishness sound so noble." Then Luo Wanwan, in her high heels, declared with overwhelming confidence, "Fu Pu, you're completely out of the game. The only person I've ever truly loved in my life is Zhang Yin." Hearing this, Fu Pu was struck dumb, his face turning deathly pale as he staggered back 2 steps. Watching Luo Wanwan's resolute departure, he was utterly devastated, forced to close his eyes in anguish and admit that he had lost everything, both in his family business and in love. A few days later, the Luo family held a very lively family gathering. And Luo held Xu Xiaoxiao's hand, beaming from ear to ear, praising the girl's increasingly beautiful and radiant skin, and even inquiring about the skincare product she used. As soon as Luo Wanwan pushed open the door and walked in, seeing the harmonious and joyful atmosphere among the elders and younger generations, for some reason a pang of jealousy instantly welled up inside her. She pouted and couldn't help but deliberately question her mother. "Mom, when did your relationship become so harmonious and good? If I remember correctly, wasn't Mom the one who hated Zhang Jingci the most, and was the most opposed to me associating with him?" Her best friend Xu Xiaoxiao, dressed in an expensive white fur coat and holding a glass of red wine, chimed in with a mysterious air. "Wanwan, you don't understand, we've recently discovered an incredible treasure." Wanwan ignored the teasing, gave a haughty snort, and said, "Jingci Jish, wait for me a minute, I'll go upstairs to change and come down to find you." With that, she stomped upstairs in her slippers, fuming. In the room, after Luo Wanwan changed, the tightly closed door was gently pushed open. The real Zhang Jingci entered with somewhat heavy steps. The study was empty. The usually authoritative minister Zhang, who was always so dignified in front of his subordinates, appeared somewhat flustered and uneasy. He walked up to Wanwan, his eyes clear and utterly sincere as he offered his apology. He sighed and said softly, "Wanwan, I'm sorry. I've become acutely aware of your deliberate distancing and coldness towards me. I'm terrified. I'm afraid I've done something wrong." Wanwan, sitting in her chair, was startled by his words. She never imagined that the Minister of Finance, Zhang, who was supposedly dull, rigid, and even somewhat unromantic in ancient history, could utter such ambiguous and heart-pounding words so fluently in private. Seeing her silence, Zhang Jingci, feeling somewhat aggrieved and anxious, took a step forward and boldly grabbed Wanwan's somewhat cold hand. Looking into his earnest eyes and feeling the warmth of his hand, Wanwan finally couldn't help but sigh and speak the truth that had been hidden in her heart for so long. She lowered her head and explained sullenly that the reason she had been acting somewhat cold and distant lately was simply because she didn't want Zhang Jingci to feel any psychological burden because of her heavy feelings for him. She even pessimistically thought that Zhang Jingci was deliberately distancing himself from her in private to find a way back to ancient times and to go home as soon as possible. Upon hearing this, Zhang Jingci immediately panicked and gripped her hand tightly, urgently clarifying in a loud voice that he had absolutely no such intention. He looked at her, his voice filled with deep affection, and confessed, "Wanwan, you've misunderstood. I assure you, I am Zhang Yin from history. I chose to stay here completely, abandoning everything from the past, all because I love you. You are the only reason I stayed in the modern world." Just as their eyes met, their emotions running high, and the atmosphere was so intimate that they were about to kiss, the door to the room was suddenly and violently pushed open with a bang. Their clothes fluttered. There stood his younger brother, Fu Qingming, brazenly in the doorway, shouting at the top of his lungs, "Sister, brother Jingci, what are you doing hiding in the room? Everyone's downstairs in the lobby waiting for you to go out and drink together. Come on, come on." This unexpected intruder instantly shattered the sweet world they had painstakingly created for the two of them. Luo Wanwan, furious, grabbed a cushion from the sofa and threw it at him. However, this misunderstanding and unresolved issue, caused by the red exclamation mark on WeChat, was ultimately resolved completely. Everyone happily gathered at a bustling, vibrant street food stall for a meal, enjoying skewers and chilled beer. Wanwan sat at the noisy table, completely abandoning her airs as a wealthy heiress, her hands supporting her chin, her beautiful eyes seemingly glued to Zhang Jingci sitting opposite her. No matter how noisy the surrounding crowd, her gaze remained fixed, her eyes filled with pink bubbles. Although Zhang Jingci was usually imposing in the court, being stared at so intently by his beloved at this modern street food stall made him feel uneasy and flustered. He blushed shyly, lowered his head awkwardly, and whispered to the people next to him, Everyone, why are you all staring at me like that? Is there something on my face?" Seeing this, Xiao Xiao and her group of friends immediately started to cheer and laugh loudly. As they clinked glasses, everyone exclaimed that this was the typical sour smell of love, and that the girl was definitely a clingy puppy. However, fate is unpredictable. On the way back from the dinner party, Zhang Jingci, in protecting a pedestrian from an accident, accidentally sustained a minor cut and bled quite a bit, forcing him to be rushed to the hospital. The luxurious VIP ward was filled with the faint smell of disinfectant. Lying weakly on the pristine white hospital bed, Zhang Jingci opened his eyes to find Luo Wanwan, her eyes red and swollen from crying, clutching his hand tightly, sitting by his side, refusing to leave. Wanwan felt incredibly guilty at that moment, tears streaming down her face like a broken string of pearls. She kept blaming herself for being too indecisive and dramatic lately, for not being brave enough to face him and her feelings sooner, which had hurt him. Seeing this, Xiao Xiao and the other perceptive friends exchanged glances and quickly made excuses to slip out of the ward, considerately closing the door behind them, leaving the two of them in absolute silence. In the quiet hospital bedside, Zhang Jingci looked at Wanwan, who was crying her eyes out, and his heart ached terribly. Ignoring the IV drip in his hand, he seized this rare opportunity, gazing at her with incredibly deep affection, and confessed from the bottom of his heart, "Wanwan, don't cry, I'm fine. A girl as kind, beautiful, and pure as you is truly one in a million in your modern society. Now that I clearly know your sincerity and your feelings, I swear to you, I will never leave. In this life and the next, I will shamelessly stay by your side forever, and no one can drive me away." Hearing this almost vow-like confession, Wanwan was deeply moved, and her tears fell even more fiercely. But her proud little temper flared up again, and she couldn't help but laugh through her tears, sniffling and playfully scolding him, saying how he had become so wicked and glib. In the sunlit hospital room, the two bickered sweetly and affectionately. Zhang Jingci leaned back against the bed cushions, raised 3 fingers, and reiterated with utmost sincerity and affection, "Wanwan, don't worry, I Zhang Jingci have never had anyone else in my heart. I would never lie to you, or may the heavens punish me." Wanwan was completely amused by his earnestness, bursting into laughter through her tears. She wiped away her tears, her big eyes sparkling with curiosity, as she asked, "Hey, now that the misunderstanding is cleared up, how should I address you in private, when no one else is around? I can't keep calling you Minister of Finance, Zhang, can I?" Zhang Jingxi's eyes softened, almost dripping with tenderness. He took her hand, kissed it gently, and said softly, "Silly girl, just call me Brother Jingci. As for outside, the real Brother Jingci will come back in a few days when you're fully recovered and the crisis is over. If that is the case, I'll return this prestigious CEO's identity and name to him intact. Then I'll just be your Jingci." Wanwan felt a sweet warmth in her heart. She blinked and asked softly, with a mixture of probing and sweetness, "Then you're willing to make such a huge sacrifice for me, to make this decision to stay in the modern world, is it all because of me?" Zhang Jingci looked at her expectant eyes, a smile playing on his lips, and without hesitation, with boundless affection, admitted, "Yes, it is all because of you. It was your appearance, Miss Wanwan, that gave me my first glimmer of goodwill and longing for this originally unfamiliar and cold modern society. Wherever you are, that is where my home is." But just at this crucial moment, when their love was mutual and the atmosphere was incredibly sweet, the wooden door to the ward was suddenly kicked open with an extremely rough bang. A wealthy young woman named Wen Yu, dressed in a luxurious white haute couture gown, with exquisite makeup on her face, and eyes filled with arrogance and twisted madness, barged in without a care. She even shoved aside Wen Yu's mother, who was desperately trying to stop her. Wen Yu, in her high heels, stormed to the bedside, sneered, and roughly threw a thick stack of intimate photos, snatched from who knows where, onto the bed of the real Zhang Jingci, who was recuperating. The photos scattered all over the floor, some quite obscene. Wen Yu crossed her arms, chin held high, and arrogantly threatened him. "Zhang Jingci, you better watch this. You have no choice now. You must marry me properly and make me the young mistress of the Zhang family. Otherwise, we'll see." Zhang Jingci remained calm, his eyes not even flickering. He slowly extended 2 long slender fingers, picked up one of the photos, glanced at it, and then, as if it were some extremely filthy garbage, casually tossed it into the trash can. He raised his head, staring intently at her, with the coldness of someone looking at a clown, the imposing look in his eyes sending a shiver down Wen Yu's spine. Zhang Jingci, right in front of Luo Wanwan, bluntly and mercilessly exposed her. "Wen Yu, in all my years, I've never seen a woman as shameless as you. You've been cheating on your family, doing all sorts of absurd and despicable things. Now that the scandal has been exposed, and your family business is on the verge of bankruptcy, you still dare to dream of climbing the social ladder by using such underhanded means. It is utterly delusional." Wen Yu, exposed on the spot, was immediately enraged and ashamed. Her meticulously surgically enhanced face was contorted with rage as she hysterically threatened, "Zhang Jingci, don't push your luck. If you don't agree, I guarantee I'll release all these photos on the internet and in all the major media outlets tonight, completely ruining your reputation and the entire Zhang family, causing your stock to plummet." But Wen Yu had miscalculated the man before her. Standing before her was none other than Lord Zhang, the decisive and ruthless ruler who held the reins of a nation's finances in ancient times. Faced with this mindless threat, reminiscent of a petty shrew, Zhang Jingci showed no sign of panic. Instead, he let out a cold, contemptuous laugh. His eyes were filled with condescending disdain and contempt as he bluntly stated, "Wen Yu, you're welcome to try. I've lived this long, navigating the treacherous waters of court and business, and have never been successfully threatened by anyone, especially not by a shameless, brazen, ignorant woman like you. Guards, throw her out, don't defile my place." Wen Yu looked at Zhang Jingci's overwhelming aura of authority, at his fearless, even murderous, cold gaze, and finally, her heart trembled completely. She knew this tactic wouldn't work on this man. under Luo Wanwan's mocking gaze, she could only grit her teeth and slink away, feeling guilty and utterly humiliated. After the annoying Wenyu was gone, the VIP ward finally returned to its usual peace and warmth. The curtains of the French windows fluttered slightly. Just then, from the shadows of the dressing room beside the bed, Zhang Yin, the historical figure from over 1,000 years ago, emerged slowly from the shadows, dressed in a mysterious long black robe. His hands were in his trench coat pockets, his gaze complex yet tinged with a hint of relief as he silently looked at Zhang Jingci lying on the bed. They exchanged a knowing look, everything understood without words. Meanwhile, on the other side of the hospital bed, Zhang Jingci, now completely transformed and dressed in a blue and white striped hospital gown, leaned against the pillows with a somewhat helpless air. Luo Wanwan, at this moment, had transformed into the most attentive and supportive wife, holding an exquisite fruit platter and a small fork, meticulously feeding him fresh strawberries, bite by bite. While feeding him, Wanwan complained with a mix of heartache and a hint of reproach. "Jingci, you're really neglecting your health. The doctor told you to rest more, but you said you have to go back to the set tomorrow to continue filming. I really don't understand you. Why would you give up being a wealthy CEO and take on this role? And you're even playing the real Minister of Finance, Zhang Jingci from history. Aren't you just playing yourself?" Zhang Jingci swallowed the fruit in his mouth, looking at Wanwan's reproachful expression, and couldn't help but smile gently. He shook his head and patiently explained, "Wanwan, you misunderstood. Actually, when I took on this role, I didn't know the specifics of the script. I just happened to hear from my assistant that a big-budget film was in preparation, a historical drama about my past life's dynasty. I was immediately interested, and wanting to find some traces of the past in this world, I didn't hesitate to have the company invest and went myself. Who knew it would be such a coincidence?" Hearing this explanation, Wanwan felt a little better. She reached out a small fair hand, gently stroking his slightly pale, yet still strikingly handsome face with a mixture of tenderness and concern. Suddenly, as if struck by a thought, her almond-shaped eyes narrowed slightly, a hint of jealousy and judgment in her gaze as she began to interrogate him. "Himp, since you finished your performance, let me ask you, in that historical drama, how exactly did the real Lord Zhang die in the end? And I heard that in the extra chapters of that drama, it seems he later renounced the world with some noble princess from the court and went into seclusion in the mountains. Tell me honestly, is that true or not?" Upon hearing these jealous words, Zhang Jingci's survival instinct instantly kicked in. He sat bolt upright, waving his hands frantically, even his eyes becoming incredibly clear and honest. He hurriedly and frantically explained, "Wanwan, listen to me, that's all made up by the screenwriter. The historical Zhang Jingci actually died at the young age of 24 from overwork. As for the so-called imperial marriage and the seclusion in the mountains with the princess in that side story, that was purely for show, a political marriage to appease the court. I assure you, Zhang Jingci had absolutely no romantic feelings for that princess in ancient times. In his 24 years of life, the only person he truly loved and cherished was you, Wanwan, heaven and earth bear witness." As he delivered this urgent and sincere confession, the scene, accompanied by somewhat ethereal and melodious ancient music, instantly transitioned to a passionate flashback in the ancient world 1,000 years ago. A snow-covered winter scene, snowflakes fell heavily before a majestic cold palace square. A magnificent fiery red wedding gown, adorned with an exquisitely beautiful yet tragically poignant beauty, stood in the midst of swirling snow, gazing deeply into the eyes of Lord Zhang, a man in imposing court robes. Their gazes, a tapestry of love and hate, seemed to hold a destiny predetermined across countless reincarnations, a beauty so poignant, it was heartbreaking. The scene abruptly shifted back to the warm comfort of a hospital room in the real world. After hearing his desperate, amusing yet sincere explanation, and seeing his sweat-drenched brow, Luo Wanwan was finally completely charmed, breaking into a radiant smile, a smile as beautiful as a spring flower in full bloom. She gently poked his forehead with her finger, teasing him with a hint of coquettishness. All right, look how nervous you are. Lord Zhang is quite different now. Living in modern times for so long, you've even learned to use sweet words to make girls happy. According to history books, you were a very arrogant, ruthless, and powerful minister in ancient times, one even the emperor feared. You're so gentle now." Hearing her teasing, the panic in Zhang Jingci's eyes instantly vanished, replaced by boundless affection. He reached out his large hands, and with extreme gentleness force yet strength, firmly grasped Wanwan's slightly cold hand. He pressed her hand against his cheek, his gaze fixed on her, as if trying to merge his entire heart and soul into her eyes at that moment. His voice was deep, yet carried an unwavering vow as he solemnly promised, Wanwan, all that has happened in the past, the power and status of ancient times, the so-called historical events, is nothing but fleeting smoke, a mere dream to me. I am no longer an ancient minister, nor the high and mighty young Master Zhang. From this moment on, I am only your Jingci, Luo Wanwan's alone. I will forever remain in this new world with you, using all my strength to steadfastly and unwaveringly walk towards you, to hold up a sky for you. Upon hearing this heartfelt confession that transcended 1,000 years, Luo Wanwan's eyes welled up again. But this time they were tears of happiness. A sweet reassuring smile graced her lips as she obediently leaned forward, gently resting her head in Zhang Jingci's broad, warm, and firm embrace. Outside the ward, the New York sunlight streamed through the gaps in the curtains, bathing the two of them in its glow. These two souls, originally belonging to different times and spanning over 1,000 years of history, finally found their most perfect and happiest final resting place in each other's warm embrace after experiencing countless misunderstandings, suspicions, identity mismatches, and numerous trials.